My season's now done. This is my last race for the year. But I just came back from triathlon, Carifta in Bermuda. Came second in the triathlon. I won the aquathlon. I was the bottom of my age group there. So I have 3 years left. But I just like doing the races. It's always nice to come out here. It's a great atmosphere. So it's not really a big push for me to come and race. I like it.
Well, Finn, best of luck. Of course, continue to fly the Barbados flag very, very high. And we're looking forward to see great things from you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Finn Armstrong there. He placed second today in the 3K. We're going to continue to find the winners of all the events and bring them just for you.
Finn Armstrong at 16 years old, completing the Barbados Quinella in the 3K. His friend John Raven at 19 years old won the event. Finn Armstrong at 16 years old, the second place finisher in the 3K among the men. And Barbadian little Layla McIntyre, 11 years old, massive talent she is, and great personality as well. A Harrison College student, and she bested the field in the women's section of the 3K as we continue to look at our race leader running through the bush. Yeah, so Finn Armstrong at 16, second, competed in the 10K on Saturday and did well in that event as well. And he will get some prize money for finishing second in the 3K today. Insofar as prize money is concerned, we can tell you that in the marathon winner will receive 4,000 Barbados dollars. That's 2,000 US dollars. Male and female winner, $4,000. Second place, male and female, 3,000 Barbados dollars. Third place finisher in the marathon, 2,000 Barbados dollars. The medals will be presented to, well, the competitors will be getting medals of participation, and just something, a token for them to look back years from now to mark their participation at this event. The 7K winner is back, and Mariah has that interview.
The best part about my job is I get to speak to all the winners. Congratulations on the 7K. How was that for you?
Nice, I like it, but we all want doing better.
And I can see you dripping in sweat. How exhausted was it?
That's water.
Water? All right, so, how has preparation for this been for you? Did you do anything differently?
I do different, same mindset.
And how proud are you to be able to take part in a competition like this put on by your country?
Good, happy, and we want to do better.
So what's your next personal best that you're aiming for?
Half marathon or the marathon.
Yeah? All right, well, I want to wish you all the best. Congratulations on such a great achievement, and of course we're looking forward to see you.
All right, thanks. See you next year.
Our 7K winner, ladies and gentlemen. Back to you, team.
7K winner has come in. We're going to tell you we're going to straighten that out for you. We're looking at our start list. Our start list ends at 73.95. So we couldn't find an identifier there, but we're going to work on that for you as we continue to look at our winners. I was telling you the prize money for the various events, and so the marathon winner, $4,000. The 7K and half marathon contested today, I'll tell you the prize money for that as well, or for those. For the 10K yesterday, 800 Barbados dollars for the win, 600 for second, $300 for third, for men and women respectively. And for the 5K, $500 for the win, $300 for second place, $200 for third. For the half marathon, which is being contested now, the winner of the half marathon will receive 2,000 Barbados dollars, men and women. Second place, 1,500 Barbados dollars. Third place, 1,000 Barbados dollars. And if you just divide by 2, you will get the US equivalent. So 1,000 Barbados dollars for the winner of the half marathon. 750 for the second place finisher, and $500 for third place. That's the half marathon. So we already told you that the winner of the marathon will pocket 4,000 Barbados or 2,000 US dollars.
Well, George, what I can tell you is that he's getting very close to us now coming back to...
You estimate about how much time, given the pace that he's been keeping? Another 10 minutes?
Probably even just a bit less than that, George. I say maybe between 7 to 9. I go between 7 to 9, just short of your 10. And he should be back passing us here at the starting point of Barclays Park. A very popular spot for Barbadians to just come and relax. Several of them actually came out yesterday and made a wonderful picnic. But I'm not sure how many will wake up this early to come to Barclays Park today. But if they do, George, they're treated to something very fine this morning.
And there was a cracking concert in the evening starring Alison Hines. Well, she closed the show. There were several very good performances before hers, and it was really a party put on. And I have to doff my cap to Corey Garrett and his team at Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., Ashley Phillip, and the rest of the team as well for the outstanding job they did organizing Saturday's event. So there was run, there was fun, there was rum, there was sun, and there was cracking entertainment to go along with it. The winner of the 7K, we've identified him, Shamel Maynard. He wore bib number 7400, Barbadian as well. So Barbados has won the men's 3K, the women's 3K. The winner in the 7K men, a Barbadian, Shamel Maynard, and they're doing well, the home team. Carly Robinson is with Mariah now, from the 7K field as well. Mariah, take it away.
So much for that, George. Carly, congratulations, the first woman to cross that 7K finish line. You're also a Barbados national record holder. How does it feel?
I feel really good about being able to come first overall today. Yesterday I did the 10K, so that took a little bit out of me, but I normally do the half, but I decided let me do the 7 this year and see how it goes, and it went really well, so I'm very happy.
I'm curious to find out, how do you bounce back from yesterday to compete today?
Well, normally I run like half marathon. That's what I have the record for Barbados, so the distance is not really a big deal for me. In fact, I think it's probably one of the strengths for me in the race, knowing that my legs are not tired from yesterday and I may have a little bit more energy still, so it's good.
And how excited are you to compete at home? Because for record holders, it's always amazing when you have your home crowd supporting you.
100%. So this year I did a lot of races in Canada, and I actually won one in Montreal, and that was really nice. So the feeling of being able to compete in front of like a local crowd and show them what we can do is just, there's really nothing like it.
Well, Carly, thank you so much for chatting with us, and now you can go hydrate and come back. Thank you. Carly Robinson there, Barbados national record holder.
Carly Robinson at 35 years old, besting the field in the 7K. So we have two Quinellas going now, Joel. Barbados sewing up the men's and women's sections of the 3K and sewing up the men's and women's sections of the 7K.
I definitely expected that performance from Carly. As she mentioned, she's the record holder for that half marathon. She definitely loves a good run, George. She also loves her music as well does Carly. So congratulations to her.
Yep. Chap there looking as if he's making his way to work and not engaging Alex Ikeza in a sprint as he draws ever closer to this turning point. Of course, it's Barbados, so there isn't the facilitation, let me put it that way, for a dead 26.2 mile run from start to finish. So on the East Coast, they've looped the course at points to be able to account for the distance of the marathon, 26.2 miles, of just over 41 kilometers. And Alex Ikeza won't mind. It's just the task at hand is to win this marathon. And he, a long time ago, ran rivals into submission and continues to just check his watch. I continue to want to know, Joel, what he has in his left hand. It's a pity my camera crew can't ask him, but yeah, I'd really give, I'd pay to know what he's been holding for the past several minutes.
It'll be very interesting to find that out indeed. What was very interesting as well is what Carly mentioned in terms of, running in front of the home crowd. And they're going to get a lot more of that with this particular route because we're actually running through neighborhoods, we're actually running through districts. So people get a chance to just come outside because usually, when you run that traditional Barbados route, you're heading down the main highway. Not many houses on that stretch. So very few people actually come out and get a chance to watch. This year around, this is what the route offers. And with that loop as well, you get a chance to pass by several competitors who can also egg you on and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm getting a bit closer to that edge, to that end.
Yeah, I just saw him hailing a few competitors as he passed them. They were making the route that he has already completed, and a good camaraderie among the runners union. Alex Ikeza came into this Run Barbados Marathon weekend in very good form. As we told you about his 10K victory yesterday, he actually won the Albany Snickers Marathon in Boston, USA in May this year. So March 7, 2022, he won that in 2 hours 21 minutes, 0.03 seconds. So he won the Albany Snickers Marathon in Boston, Massachusetts in the United States in 2 hours, 21.03 seconds. So he is in tremendous form. In that contest, he beat David Tu, his fellow Kenyan, then he beat also Birano Kemal from Ethiopia, Connor Roche of the USA, and Russell Brown of the USA. The top 5 men finishing within 2.5 hours. Ikeza winning by 55 seconds that day. So again, another very close contest. He really had to put pedal to the metal to win that contest. Different circumstances here. The field not as classy as Joel tries to zoom in to look at what he has in that left hand.
We're calling it an orange pouch, George.
It's an orange pouch.
Orange pouch for now. But what I did notice as he was running, he passed another water station, and to my mind, that is the last water station before he gets back.
And he did not take any fluid.
Did not take any fluid. The last water station before we get back to that starting point for him to make that loop one more time.
Yep. So as I suspected, Joel eagle-eyed to spot that he passed the last water station before this section of the loop. Didn't take on any fluids. I think he has just used what has been in his pouch since the race started. Not going for water. He has some special formula in that pouch that he is using to fuel his dominating performance so far.
Whatever's in that pouch is working, George. But what is also working is that sunrise. Like I said, just about 6:30 or so, and it's now 6:31. It's a beautiful sunrise here on the east coast of Barbados as he wipes that sweat away from his eyes, as he knows that, he's getting a lot closer to taking that gold medal.
All right, so when we got here about 3 a.m. this morning, the production crew, 3:30 a.m. the production crew got here to set up. It was even a bit cold outside. It was so cool as to almost be cold. At 6:30 outside, what are the conditions like? Is it warming up or is it not warming up? Is it still very cool outside? Talk to me about that.
Well, we're inside, but what I can tell you outside is probably definitely still quite cool, because on this side of the island, we get those Atlantic ocean breezes coming across. We see that beautiful shot there of the east coast of Barbados, that Chalky Mount area that drone is now showing us. If you have the legs for it, take a stroll up there. There's some beautiful shots you can get once you make it to the top of that route. But this is the Army Bourne Highway, and in terms of temperatures, George, they're roughly still about that 23, 24 mark. It's probably not until maybe about 8 or 9 a.m. when that sun really gets into the sky that we can say it's going to warm up. So we have a sun, but the sun is not really that useful yet so early in the morning.
Yeah, I think I may win my bet with you. I wager that he'd get to our commentary point back in about 10 minutes. You said about 8. It's looking dicey on your end. I think it will be about 10ish or maybe even 12. It's not that he's going slow. Our calculation is not based on anything much, but he really has gone through the gears this morning to separate himself. He was in the second line at the start. The runners, of course, lined up at the start point, and there were various lines to accommodate the crowd in the space. He was in the second line, but after a few strides, he shot to the front, not wanting to get himself into any trouble where he could be tripped by some of the other runners. The pack of competitors. He just cleared them, and from there, they saw him early, and if they've been watching our coverage, would they have seen him otherwise, because he's been out of sight of any other competitor or every other competitor. The only human beings who've been seeing him are the people who've been making their way on the road to their various places of business, and of course our camera crew, who've done a tremendous job following his every stride.
What I can tell you, George, is that he actually now passed the St. Andrew Parish Church, and my eagle's eyes spotted it there as he came around that roundabout. So I can tell you by car, George, it's 5 minutes drive away.
Yes.
By car.
So it couldn't be 10 minutes run.
Definitely. He was a bit further out than what we thought. So he's now passing the St. Andrew Parish Church, making his way along the Ermy-Bourne Highway back towards our starting point. So actually one more water station for him to pass before he actually gets just to our starting point here.
All right, so I'm depending on you to watch for the water station to see if he actually takes on any fluid. My guess is that he won't, and somewhere though he'll be able to replenish. We're hearing that there was an issue about the 3K turn on the north side, so that has just distorted the times, and the times for the winners will not be posted for the 3K because of a slight on-course issue with the turn marker. The turn marker was not in the right place, and so some people turned at the wrong place, distorting the time. Not the result, because the result still stands. Layla McIntyre, the 11-year-old Barbadian, is the winner of the 3K, and John Raven, the young Barbadian, is the winner of the men's section of the 3K. Those results do not change, but just the announcement that the times will not be posted because of that mix-up that caused the course, the marking to not be in the particular place that it ought to have been, messing with the timekeepers and their record keeping. All right.
Well, that very same St. Andrew Parish Church, history tells us, or would like to tell us, that that's one of the only surviving buildings of the hurricane that ravaged Barbados back in the 1780s, George. So it stands tall and stands firm in the same manner as our front runner here today.
There you go. Barbados has a lot of churches. The people here, they are very much cognizant of the history of the nation and where religion is concerned and their places of worship. There are more than a few here, and as Joel just told you, he did take on. All right, so we were looking for that. I was looking for that. I saw you looking at me, and he takes a sip and he dispenses with the cup. So yeah, he is human after all. It's not just, I think what's in the pouch is done, which is why he felt safe to take on some water at this time.
It was interesting you mentioned, George, about the churches here in Barbados, because they actually do say that there's a church and a rum shop on every corner here in Barbados, that you either head to the rum shop first and then go to church, or you go to church and then go to the rum shop.
Whichever order. All right, our drone guy is giving us this footage. He just left it because I wanted to see behind him how far behind the next competitor was. But so the truck in front of him, that's our camera guy, looks to be Rayon Platt, who has the task.
The relatively easy task in comparison to actually running, George, I must say that.
Yes. But he has to keep his hands steady, and he knows that, his director is a demanding man and his commentator is also a demanding fellow. So these shots can't bounce. And speaking of bouncing, that's our race leader. We told you about what happened with the 3K. The only issue is that the times will not be posted, so John Raven and Layla McIntyre won't get they won't get an idea of the time they ran, because the times will not be published because of a mix-up with a marker, and some of the runners didn't run on the course as intended, not their fault. And the organizers have said, well, the results stand, but the time. All right, so this is my Mr. Drone Man is giving us this perspective shot now. Excellent perspective shot once again. And for as far as we can see to the end of the road from where the open back vehicle is in front of Alex Ekesa, nobody is within the drone shot. Look at that. It's panoramic, and notwithstanding panorama, nobody, and we're looking and waiting for Godot, it must be said, because there's nobody else in the shot. Excellent shot again, Mr. Drone Man. Thank you for that.
Nobody with him, George, but the birds, the bees.
Yep. Yep. The kinds of communities that he's been running through, are they mostly farming communities? Is there any other industry on this side of Barbados?
Well, you are correct in saying that in terms of farming, that is where a lot of our farming actually happens over here in the country. So obviously, as you pass by, you definitely saw a lot of greenery,
yes,
a lot of open space. I would not say that is underdeveloped, George, but he developed specifically for this. As we see now, Chalky Mount there in the backdrop of him there as he comes down closer towards us here to Barclays Park. But yes, indeed, so you find a lot more fruit trees, things like the fat pork, which a lot of younger Barbadians will not be familiar with, but I think I can spot a fat pork if we happen to pass by.
What is that? What describe that for me? What's that?
So it's an interesting fruit. I believe it has a seed, and I could stand to be corrected here,
yes,
but it's a small seed on the inside. It's red and it's plump.
Yes.
And when you take a bite into it, is I would say a slightly sweetish, sourish feeling to it.
What popular fruit is it closest to?
What popular fruit? I have no idea, George.
Not the apple. Does it have a properties of apple,
no.
mango?
It is
unique.
It has the color of an apple, yes, but the red apple that is, but it's significantly smaller. It almost compares to a plum, George. Slightly to a plum, but not a plum.
There you go. All right, look at that. That lady has brought her chair out, or she may even be a marshal on the course. I think she's a marshal, given where she's sitting. Hard to think that a resident would put a chair in the road to watch the race, as we got a close-up shot there of Alex Ekeza. And this part of the country, when we speak about development though, Joel, it's not a slight at all, because people always talk about development. Not every area needs the kind of development that is common in most areas. You don't want the built environment to really expand in a place like this, because it would rob it of what makes it unique, the ruggedness, the rustic nature of this part of the country. I mean, a couple of the runners yesterday, as I noted, were saying that parts of the road could be better, were bumpy, and I'm certain that Corey Garrett and company at BTMI, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., will look at using their powers of persuasion to have the authorities fix those road surfaces. But beyond that, I wouldn't do anything else with this side of the island. It is what it is. Farming is where it's at. It's big for nature, because Joe's River and the nature reserve there and everything, the flora, fauna, the only on-land river. There are underground rivers in Barbados, several of them, but the one that is above ground is in Joe's River, and that's unique. If you have the built environment at a certain level, it could interfere with that kind of setup, as we see Ekeza taking on even more water. I think he has dispensed with the pouch. So yeah, he's taking the fluids that are made available. So the point is that this part of the island, I would have it the way it is. Road improvement notwithstanding, I wouldn't change a thing.
I wouldn't change a thing either, George. It's exactly what it needs to be. As he gets a lot closer now to where we are here at Barclays Park, I'm pretty sure I can hear his footsteps passing by us very soon. But no, this area is where people come to escape. So I agree whereby you say, you know what, you have your town development, you have, your infrastructure and whatnot, but this is where people come to just relax.
Yes.
To escape the likes of Bashiba, home to several cottages and homes and what's not, where people just come from all over the island, whether or not they're actually Barbadian or come from overseas and say, you know what, this is where I want to escape. This is my relaxation. This is where I take in the freshest breezes that you have in Barbados. There's a couple fishing communities as well out here. Then you head to Bashiba. Sure, it will not be your traditional swimming area, but there are a couple ponds, or rather pools, in that Bashiba area as well, where you can just sit, relax, and enjoy just the bubbles of the water as well.
Excellent. Another great shot from our drone guy, giving us another perspective of the beauty, nature in its resplendence on this part of Barbados. And the East Coast is a place that keeps on giving it. It's funny how we take these things for granted. We're having a marathon in a place such as this. It would have been easy for BTMI to organize this marathon for Bridgetown, as they used to do in the early years from 1983 forward, to keep it in that part of the country, running through the city, running on the paved roads, running past, running through the built-up environment. It was a brave call to take this marathon out here into nature in parts at its wildest, at its most untamed. a part of the island with almost feral characteristics, and it was a brave call. I think it was the right call, and let me tell you this, many of these competitors from overseas will not forget this Barbados Marathon, run Barbados Marathon in a hurry. They'll remember the unique nature of the course and the fact that they were part of something special, somewhere special, this great Caribbean island. We saw number 43 there, competitor number 43 in the marathon. That was Dwayne Burke, the Barbadian, 40 years old, making his way behind our race leader, who I remind you is 39 years old. Alex Ikeza is 39, competing in the male 35 to 44 category, but he'll be the winner in that category and the winner overall by some distance. It's 6:44 now, and it is nice and bright outside. Joel Manning, the local lad, not from this side of the island, but local lad in that he is Bajan through and through. He says that it will still be cool outside. The air will still have a hint of crispness about it as we draw closer to 7 a.m. and the runners will still be feeling comfortable, inhaling and respirating as they compete on this course. He says the conditions are still very, very conducive to this kind of physical activity.
I'd say the conditions are almost perfect, George. Is what I can tell is our race leaders are making his way now back to us and towards the St. Joseph area. You mentioned that Joe's River and Joe's River Bridge. He's going to run along the likes of Cattle Wash that we mentioned a little earlier, out towards Bashi, but will not get as far as Bashi, but given that they have to make that circle and come back up. But Joe's River is an area of tropical rainforest, if you can call it that, here in Barbados, and it actually consists of 85 acres of woodlands, hills, gullies and mahogany trees. There's also the Joe's River Bridge that was actually recently reconstructed.
Yes.
And there's a spot whereby several persons actually just go there. You know that social media is very popular these days, so you have your TikTok reels being done on the Joe's River Bridge. Maybe our race leader might decide to do a TikTok reel today after his run.
There you go. So the marathon, 42.195 kilometers, 26.2 miles. We all know the story of how the marathon got its name. Pheidippides, back in ancient Greece, running from Marathon with a message about an advancing army, and collapsed and died after running the 26.2 miles with that message. So that's how the marathon got its name. And we're looking at competitor 1162 in the half marathon now, the man from Trinidad and Tobago. That's Aldwin King. He's 62 years old, Aldwin, in the white vest, and he is sticking to the course in the half marathon. There we're having a close-up shot of another competitor in the half marathon. Gonna get his bib and tell you who he is in short order. That's competitor number, well, we just lost that at the crucial minute. Alright, so here he is now, and he's coming home. Well, not home as finished, but at the start. There you go.
Yes, he will definitely encourage you to make this loop here, George. So he's running past what would have been the start point for this marathon. As you can hear the cheers going up for him. They know that that pace is a very shocking one, a very quick one, George. He's going to have to make another loop of that very course that he ran just now. So he's going to be very familiar with it. He's going to probably pick that very same line that he ran earlier as he makes his way now into the parish of St. Joseph, passing us now, George. We just opened our production door, and that sunshine beamed in. It's beautiful sunshine on the outside, so he's going to get a better view now of the island of Barbados and that very rustic and rugged east coast that we've been talking about all morning long.
Yeah, they say there are three parishes along the east coast of Barbados, the largest one being St. Andrew. St. Joseph is to the south, and further south is St. John. When you look at the map though, and I'm looking for my hard copy of the map, they say that St. Lucy and St. Peter, St. Lucie, St. Peter, as well as St. Philip are technically on the eastern shoreline, but they are seen as more northern and southern respectively. But when you look at the map of Barbados, those are look to be on the east coast. But it's all about, we talk about the east coast, it's all about St. Andrew, St. Joseph, and to a lesser extent St. John.
You definitely know your geography there,
I did the research, my friend.
But yes, indeed. Maybe someday we might run as far north as St. Lucie. I'm not too sure. But he's making his way now along Cattle Wash. As I told you earlier, guys, that area famously known because back in the day they took the cattle down to the sea to wash off any ticks or anything that was on them. No cattle here today. I believe that some of these trees, you might see maybe a bit of a fat pork on one or two of them. George, don't take my word for it though, and do not eat the fruit because I've told you to.
There you go. Not at all, my friend. But your word is good. So we spoke earlier as Eliud Kipchoge has a couple more loops to complete, because we told you that on the remember, Barbados' total land area is 430 square kilometers or 166 square miles. So you're going to be hard pressed to find somewhere on the island with that 26.2 mile stretch that is conducive to the kind of event that this marathon is. So on the east coast, he's going to be running a few loops, running past the start a few times to complete, beg your pardon, I get the hiccups, to complete the 26.2 mile course, and then he'll be done. The Morgan Lewis windmill, Joel, tell us about that feature, because it is as historic as windmills come, as we see another finisher, 12:06, hold that thought, the half marathon. 12:06 in the half marathon. That's Cecilia Maubicon from France. So a French woman has won the half marathon. Cecilia Maubicon, 12:06.
Congratulations to her on a job well done. Definitely would not have been you or I that would have done that half marathon in that time, George. But you talked about the Morgan Lewis windmill, and in fact our only intact sugar mill here in Barbados, built back in 1727. To my knowledge, it's only one of two, because I believe that there's actually one intact in Antigua as well. But the Morgan Lewis windmill stopped its operations back in 1747, and our runners would actually have gotten a glimpse of maybe the wind turbine part of it. They're not running all the way up towards the windmill, but they've gotten just a bit of a glance at it. But it was restored back in 1999. It's no longer operational, but on occasion, back before COVID, you could have gone on a Sunday and got a chance to see as it turned and get a chance to taste some very fresh sugarcane juice.
Fresh sugarcane juice indeed. All right, so our leader continues to be Alex Keza, the 39-year-old Kenyan. We can just tell you that the youngest competitor in the half marathon, as the runners begin to finish, Selma Nordegarden, who's on the course with Daniel Nordegarden. She's 13 years old, the Canadian. The oldest competitor would be Rosa Head, 76 years old, from the United States, competitor number 1177, Rosa Head, 1177. So we have a 76-year-old in the half marathon, a 13-year-old, and the winner, 35 years old, Cecilia Maubicon from France, already resting, already hydrating, having completed the course. Maria Ramarak has an interview for us.
Congratulations, Joshua. You are the half marathon winner. How does it feel?
I always feel good to win. This is my second overall first place finish around Barbados, and the first in the half marathon, so I'm happy with that.
What's the secret to winning? Of course, there must be something that you do.
Today I did not plan it, I just stuck to my race plan. I had home advantage obviously, so I know the conditions are not the best, so I had some hills, baby hills, but I had some hills, so I planned my race according to the hills, knew where I could push, and I saw that the guys ahead of me, they were slowing down. I guess they weren't prepared for what the course would have thrown at them, so I used that to my advantage and just stayed patient. I had to be really patient, and when I caught them, I just kept going. Hurt a little bit towards the end, but I just kept going, and that's how I won.
Well, Joshua, you said something very key. The importance is being patient and waiting for the moment. Congratulations.
It's 21.15 kilometers and not 5 or 10 kilometers, so you have enough time you have enough time to catch people if you stay true to your plan and you believe in your training. So yeah.
Well, congratulations. All the best to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, we're going to be joined now by the winner, the female winner of the half marathon. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
It was a little bit difficult because the road is rocky, so it was difficult, but I went with a friend from Martinique who helped me for the 15 first kilometers, and after I know I can't follow him because my legs was painful. I did a lot of half marathon in this month, so but I'm very happy with the time and very happy with the win.
Yeah, you said your legs feel a bit painful. How were you able to just stick through the race and ensure that you came out as the top female?
Yes, I don't know. I find the energy in my mental, and I know in the second part of the race, I know that it's soon finished. So I say yes, you can go.
Well, congratulations and keep up the good work.
Thank you there, Mariah. So the half marathon, the winners, Cecilia Mobocon from France, 35 years old, and the male winner, he's Barbadian. He is Joshua Hunt, 26 years old. Joshua Hunt is Cecilia Mobocon. Actually, she is a medical doctor in France, and she is a run enthusiast, and she's journeyed to Barbados to capture the top prize in the half marathon. Very good performance from her, to say the least. And Joshua Hunt said that the course a little bit challenging in sections, but he had enough road to time his race to perfection. We look at this group of three in the half marathon. 1174 is leading this small group. That's Philip Gaskin from Barbados. 51 years old Philip is. The lady in the group, 1173, that's Carla Niles, also a Barbadian, and the man, the powerfully built fellow on the outside, 1192, that's Gerston Blenman, another Bajan. So a group of three Bajans, clearly they are friends, and they are running together with Blenman just leading this mini group barely right now, Joel.
What I can tell you about Gerson is that he's actually in aviation, so he's built like that, George, but he deals with planes and engineering, and he definitely loves his running as well. What was interesting to note, though, about our half marathon winner, Joshua, he mentioned a lot about that local knowledge.
Yes.
I think that has come into play for a lot of our runners here today, knowing, where the slopes are, because this East Coast, even though Barbados is not a very hilly region or hilly country, we do have a few slopes, George, that can prove to be challenging on occasion, and obviously a couple of our runners encountering those difficulties as it relates to not knowing where to push and knowing where to reserve energy as it relates to these slopes that we have here on the East Coast.
Excellent, and it's been a good day for Barbados, winning the men and women sections of the 3K, winning the men's section, the women's section of the 7K, and the half marathon, winning the men's section. Joshua Hunt winning for Barbados there, and the women's section being won by the French woman Cecilia Mobocon, one of several visitors to the island who have tasted success at the Run Barbados Marathon 2022. We continue to look at our race leader. It's now 6:56. This race started at about 5:30, so he is well on his way to winning. We told you that one of his most recent marathon wins this year completed in 2 hours 21 minutes. That was in Boston, Massachusetts, and he ran 2 hours 30 minutes and change to win in 2019 when he was first at the Run Barbados Marathon, and I said that maybe 240 thereabouts I expect from him, given the nature of the course. He could surprise us, Joel. He could drop something 230, which would be remarkable, given that 230 he dropped last year, he was under tremendous pressure from the two athletes he finished in front of, and at that Boston, Massachusetts meet, he finished less than 30 seconds in front of the second place finisher. So again, he was pushed. To not be pushed today and register a fantastic time, I'm sure that's his target, and we wish him all the very best. The sun in its brilliance, and the competitors will now be feeling significantly warmer than when they began.
Significantly warmer indeed as that sun keeps rising over the east coast. What I can tell you, George, is that he's made that bottom loop and he now has Cattle Wash on his right side, walking or rather running back towards us here what will be the actual starting point for that marathon. It's interesting, George, I'm not sure if we've seen any other marathon runners come past us here as yet, so it'll be interesting to see where they actually pass, because they must pass at some point on this Ermy-Bourne highway as he goes back up.
Competitor number 1008, Elvis Turner, third place finisher in the half marathon, is with Mariah.
Elvis Turner with me now, third place finisher of the half marathon. You're from Trinidad and Tobago to be exact. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Talk to me about, being from Trinidad and Tobago and participating in Barbados. How was that for you?
It does feel great running outside of your country.
Yeah, but is it like performing at home? Because when you're running at home, you have everybody to support you.
Yeah, sometimes, but like most time when I run outside, I just run pretty okay. And I like to run out in the Caribbean most of the times.
Yeah, just now I saw you stretching on the side there, picking up some cramps as you neared the finish line. How were you able to bounce back and ensure that
coming down to the end, like after 8 miles, I started to feel little cramps, so my pace started to drop, and I was trying to pick up to maintain, because like I was in second position. That's when I started to feel it coming back down after the hills, and the pace drop off, and I just go with that and try to maintain it.
Well, Elvis, you still did pretty well for somebody who picked up cramps. If I had no cramps, I still wasn't able to come to it, so congratulations.
Thank you, and hi to Trinidad and Tobago. I'm a coach, Richard Jones.
All right, thank you so much. Elvis Turner there from Tobago to be exact. He's very, very proud of his medal.
So Elvis Turner, one of the star turns in the half marathon today, 42 years old, and picking off a third place finish in this half marathon, and sending a shout out to his native Trinidad and Tobago and to his coach as well. As we pick up some more of the runners on the course, you made a point there earlier, Joel, about the marathon and perhaps not seeing another marathon runner complete this section of the loop. The only one we've seen is Alex Ekeza, and that just shows you how strong his performance has been so far. We started the marathon with 43 runners, 45 runners to be exact, the youngest being 24-year-old Renako Morton. Well, not Renako Morton, that was a cricketer. Renako Foster, the Bajan, and Lu Minjing from China, both at 24 years old, the two youngest in the field. And none of those have come through yet. It's just been all about this man who ripped this race apart from the first 5 minutes, and has been, it's almost as if he, with every 5 minute stretch that he completes, 5 minutes that he runs for every kilometer, he increases that lead significantly. And when the data is published post race, Joel, I'm sure we will be agog at the margin of victory that Alex Ekeza would have produced.
I can definitely agree with that, George, and I agree he definitely is looking strong. He has that orange pouch back in his hand, so it appears that he has been refueling, George, and that definitely might take him to the end of his race as he starts to come back towards us here, to head back towards now what would be the likes of St. Andrew, to get those views once again of the very Morgan Lewis Windmill, Long Pond, Chalky Mount, that sleeping giant that we've been talking so much about that you must climb, George. But what Barry also mentioned is that we could not do this if we had cramp, George. So kudos to all of the athletes right now who are out there giving it their all on this course right now.
Yes, indeed. 11:62, the gentleman in front of us, we picked him up earlier, Aldwin King, the 62-year-old from Trinidad and Tobago, just ran past, well, at least one of those competitors significantly younger than him, and Aldwin King making the best of his way up the course, looking to finish in the half marathon. It's been a very, very good day for Barbados so far. So the half marathon, the countries from the Caribbean competing. We have representation from Barbados, TNT, we have St. Lucia, we have Guadeloupe, we have St. Vincent, and we have Antigua and Barbuda. They are in a field of 11 countries with athletes in this half marathon. The others are part of the Caribbean countries, Joel: Great Britain, the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and France.
I just love the fact that, let's start with the Caribbean. I love the fact that we have our sisters and brothers, so to speak, flying over to Barbados to compete here in around Barbados. What we also got from our runner there in the half marathon, who would have been from Tobago. I want to stress on Tobago because when you're from Trinidad and Tobago, you happen to be from Tobago, you want to have that mentioned. But the way he's talking, it sounds like if he's traveled to a lot of marathons and half marathons around the Caribbean region himself as well. So that's actually wonderful to see that they're making their ways around the Caribbean, getting a chance see here, see there, and see everywhere. And for our international competitors, this is definitely one like no other. Sure, there are marathons all around the world, George, but none like here on the east coast of Barbados.
None at all. We look at competitor 1185 in the half marathon. 1185, that's Jimmy Kelman, a Barbadian, 52 years old. Jimmy has, there's a runner close to him who has Jimmy in his sights, and he'd want to maintain that gap. Jimmy looks to be working hard to maintain this rhythm. Never a good sign when you're a distance runner and you're breathing through your mouth. As we see, it's almost as if a little rise. That's
also about the point out there, George. We can see it here now on the camera. Those hills and those slopes that we're so proud of here in Barbados. He's actually making his way up one of them, and what you would know is that if you happen to be driving a car in Barbados, you can hear the engine turning over a bit stronger. So we know those legs have to turn over just a bit stronger for these athletes as well. It'll be well within their mind, knowing that as a marathon runner they must come back up here, save a bit of energy going up a couple of these inclines, because I promise you on the second loop, George, they'll be that much harder to come up.
Yeah, you're gonna feel it in those legs. So Jimmy Kelman, gap between him and his nearest pursuer, and he may be our overall second place runner in the half marathon at this point. As we look at the athlete number 1006, 1006 in the half marathon, 1006, we can tell you. That's David Eames from Great Britain, 38 years old. And he will have an idea of the pace he wanted to set, and perhaps it is that he's pleased with the fact that he has no company, nobody to get away from him to force him to want to chase.
I could actually hear the voice of our announcer on the outside asking marathon to be on the right and half marathon to be on the left, suggesting that we might actually have a marathon runner coming in back through as well. So that would tell us that roughly maybe about a good 15 minutes or so, George, in between Alex and what would be our second person here now.
It may even be more than that. All right, so we're looking at competitor number 29 in the marathon in the yellow top. And then the number is a bit obscured for the big man on the right of the screen. But number 29 is Rodney Blackman from Barbados, 59 years old. Rodney in the yellow t-shirt and the, I'm gonna say, peach shorts.
And just behind him is somebody in, I would say, decked out in the colors of Barbados. We recently had our Independence Day / Republic Day here in Barbados. Beautiful colors of blue, yellow, and black. But they're heading up now what is another incline, and I must say I'm impressed, George. I am thoroughly impressed with the pace we can see here now on display, and the fact that I definitely could not get this done.
Yep, you speak of Republic Day and Independence Day, and there was some pushback when the idea was broached that Independence Day would be replaced by Republic Day. I know you're a patriotic Barbadian. You all are, as you ought to be. Where do you stand in that debate? Do you want it to remain Independence Day? Do you want Independence Day to be replaced by Republic Day, or do you want to have both as holidays?
It doesn't need to be both as holidays, but I am one in the corner of having it remain Independence Day, just given the nature and the historic nature behind it all. The fact that day at the Garrison Savannah in 1966, a day that I was not thought of just yet, but that day that those Barbadians stood there with the right excellence of Errol Walton, Barrow, and said Barbados is now independent. I believe that November 30th should stay as Independence Day. Sure, we can celebrate Republic Day along with it as well, because Republic Day speaks to the journey, as our Prime Minister Mia Motley so often talks about. But hey, I don't need to take another holiday, George, but I could take it as a separate day.
I'm sure the business community will be saying, you go, Joel. Not another holiday for us to not have production done on that day. The Trinidadians could assist the Bajans with a thing or two, because they have both those days celebrated as holiday. They have Independence Day and they have Republic Day. TNT, of course, a republic, and so they'll say to their Bajan friends, well, what's the trouble? Why one or the other? Why not have both? But Joel Manning reflecting, I'm certain he's reflecting the will of the business community. Not another holiday, not another day where we'll have no or significantly reduced production. Speaking of production, our race leader continues to churn along, and he's running on a section of the road that was graded. The top of it was dug off because of the unevenness. Still uneven, but significantly better than it was before the work was done to it. And it's hard to anticipate that this level of work would be done, except for preparing the road to be paved. So we're looking at. Well, talk to me about the shot of the beach now and the waves coming in, because we mentioned early in the broadcast that this is the part of Barbados that is known for surfing huge waves on the east coast, and I'm sure the surfers are getting ready to go and hang 10 or whatever it is that they hang these days when the waves really start lapping up and hitting the shoreline.
The surfers are definitely getting ready, George. What I can tell you is that he's back into the parish of St. Andrew now on his left. As we mentioned, that a rustic Atlantic Ocean side of Barbados. Funny enough, Bathsheba got its name because Bathsheba is where all the surfers go here in Barbados, but it got its name because of the wife of the king back then, Bathsheba.
Yeah.
She was said to go into the waters and it resembles somewhat of a milk bath.
Yes.
And the foam, they say, also resembles that foam bath that she would have had back in the day.
Natalie Burrows is competitor number 1041, listed as an American, but she has a Jamaican bandana, as we see Akesa taking on more fluids. Heard those stories as a youngster about David and Bathsheba.
That water station, to my mind, that he just passed is just to the left of him will be that sleeping giant. So great views on his left as he makes his way now from Chalky Mode. He's going to make his way along Long Pond and head back now to that area of Bell Plain where we saw the cricket field, we saw the trees, and George, once again that sun peeping up. It's probably getting a little warmer now on the outside, still nowhere near an uncomfortable temperature. So we started this morning roughly at about 22, 23. I dare say this morning right about now is maybe about 26 now, so still good temperatures on the outside. And what he will also have is that breeze, George.
Yeah. Well, he's about 1 hour and 40 minutes or 1 hour and 41 minutes into his run, Alex Akesa, and we are factoring that he'll take not more than another hour on the course. So 1 hour and 1 hour 40 counting for Akesa. So just about another hour on the course and he'll be done with the event. And we are looking at a situation where the second place, the runner in second place in this marathon, nowhere to be found, and the field strung out at the top as you would expect it, and at the other end of the field, you may have groups of runners just trying to band together to complete the course and realizing, like birds don't fly solo, that they're better off in a pack, taking turns to lead the mini group to do the work to get them through. And you'll see the field bunching towards the rear of this marathon field, but the further up you go, closer to the leader, it will be strung out. And speaking of stringing out, this man has a lot of rope and road between him and his nearest pursuer. There's also an area on this east coast in St. Joseph called the Soup Bowl, Joel, and I must ask you to tell our viewers what has caused the Soup Bowl to be so named, to be so designated.
Well, it's all about the shape, George. It's really about that soup, little bowl shape that we have here on the East Coast, and hence why we actually have the Soup Bowl surfing that happens at Bathsheba, that very famous international surfing competition at Chelsea Tuach. I could have told you so much about yesterday as well. So that is where it gets the name from, that little shape that we have on this side of the island. As our race leader now, Alex, makes his way along what will be that Ermyborn Highway, going once again towards that Long Pond area. And it's interesting because in Barbados we don't have many rivers. Our sister islands, the nature islands that we have around us, the likes of Grenada, Dominica, Jamaica, that you would know for yourself as well, George, full of a lot of rivers and streams and what's not. So we just have about 4 key rivers here in Barbados. So the Constitution River, that's based in Bridgetown, then Long Pond River, that Alex is about to make his way out towards, then Joe's River, that he actually just came from, down a lot closer towards the area of St. Joseph. And then there's one more, the Bruce Vale River, and that's also in the parish of St. Andrew. So in fact, 3 of our rivers actually here now on the East Coast, the other one in Bridgetown. Yep,
St. Joseph, along with having the Soup Bowl, which which Joel just told you about, calling Joel Alex, is not a bad thing. The Soup Bowl, from the surfing perspective, they describe it as a perfect right-handed reef break, and as Joel noted, it hosts several international surfing competitions annually. Tent Bay is also another feature in St. Joseph. It's a quaint fishing village, they say, and some of the Barbados tourism paraphernalia lists Tent Bay as almost being a place that time has forgotten, but the locals love it exactly how it is.
Oh no, I can guarantee that, George. And what I can also guarantee is that you're going to get some very good tasting fish as well, whether or not it's grilled, fried. It is done in every form and format there in Tent Bay. A lot of fishing villages here on the East Coast as well. Some actually you can actually find them on a couple early mornings or late evenings, heading out into the waters and catching fish that I have no idea the name of. But what I can tell you, George, is that all taste good.
Yep, Barbados has some of the oldest churches in the Caribbean, as you would expect, given how long life has been organized on this island, and certainly the oldest parliament in the Caribbean belongs to Barbados, that title. And speaking of that, I say all of that to talk about the Atlantis Hotel, which is also in St. Joseph. They say the Atlantis Hotel, Joel, is 100+ years old.
Yeah, definitely a lot of historic sites here. I have not made my way there to the Atlantis Hotel. I've actually had a chance to eat there at their restaurant, and what I can say, Georgia, it's breezy, just as the same breeze that our runners will be having here. It also offers some amazing views all along the eastern side of Barbados, as we see some runners coming in now to that point. So I believe those will be half marathon runners, George, who just completed the race. So congratulations to all of them. Your strength and determination is definitely commended, because like we said before, I don't think we could have done it, George.
No. And Mariah Ramarak will be having some interviews for us very shortly. We speak of the Atlantis Hotel again in St. Joseph, rather, not St. Andrew, St. Joseph, and it being over 100 years old. St. Joseph has 3 notable botanical gardens, or the 3 of the more notable botanical gardens in Barbados: Flower Forest, Andromeda Botanical Gardens, and Hunt's Gardens. Hunt's Gardens, I drove through a couple of days ago, and I saw horses, I saw rolling pasture, and I said, what a peaceful place. And this East Coast, I much prefer it to the West is too busy, Joel. I'm too used to the hurly-burly. I like the life on the East Coast, and I'm sure our race leader, Alex Akeza, is also loving life on the East Coast and wishing that he could take the atmosphere with him to his marathons and hope that the organizers improve the surface that they're running on, because I'm telling you, once that is done, the Barbados Marathon will be even more prestigious, will be even bigger than it is. Many more nationalities and multiple athletes from those countries will be flocking to this gem of the Caribbean to participate in Run Barbados Marathon weekend.
I can definitely guarantee that as long as they're watching this footage right now, as long as they look at the race course, George, they're going to say, I need to have those views as well. You're talking now about old institutions, and I can tell you that the Allen School, which is actually over here now on the East Coast as well, is the 4th oldest secondary school in Barbados. The institution is 234 years old and hosts from 1st to 6th form here as well.
Yep, it's not on the East Coast, but I have to mention, given that the fact that you talked about schools and age, the Jamaicans love to claim Wolmer's as the oldest high school in the Caribbean, and I'd say to them, well, no, there's a place called Combermere in Barbados that's been around from 1695 that has a few years, several years on Wolmer's. So Barbados, again, the history is rich, and there are some historical places on this East Coast. So 2 more runners making their way in the half marathon. Those are half marathoners. As we told you, the half marathon and the marathon began at the same time. So a few moments ago we told you that Alex Ekeza was about an hour and 40 minutes into his marathon performance. It will be the same for the half marathoners. Last year, the half marathon, the Run Barbados event, the Cave Shepherd the Cave Shepherd was sponsored the marathon last time. The half marathon last time, the Fortress half marathon, was won by Yves Sikobuabo, the Canadian. We told you that in 1 hour and 13 minutes. Carlo Flink was second last year, and Sarah Inglis was the winner last year as well. We can tell you that this year, the half marathon, we already had athletes coming in, and Elvis Turner, the Trinidadian, was third. Joshua Hunt, the Barbadian, was the winner for the men's section, and the women's winner was Cecilia Mobocon from France. Some cyclists on the course, some leisure cyclists. We don't have a cycling competition as part of the Run Barbados Marathon weekend, and no doubt they too are marveling at the capacity of this 39-year-old Kenyan who's dominated this race from the start, the world-class competitor in the field, and it's because the marathon is worth his while why Alex Ekeza has taken time to come to Barbados for this event yet again. So we haven't heard from any Jamaicans since the Run Barbados Marathon weekend began on Saturday. Mariah Ramarak, though, has found one, and she has an interview lined up.
Well, we did say we have representation from all around the Caribbean. I was happy now to catch up with Natalie from Jamaica. You were able to complete the half marathon. How does it feel?
I feel very good. It feels good to have it over and done with.
Yeah, and you know, competing in Barbados, how has that experience been for you?
You know what? This is I'm from Jamaica. I live in Baltimore, so this is the warmest I've run in since I've started running. So it took a little bit getting used to, but it wasn't too bad. I can't complain.
And how was the course for you?
Interesting. A little bumpy on some parts, but it was doable. I wasn't nervous or anything, but it definitely was an interesting course.
Well, Natalie, congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, you accomplished the goal that you set out for, and of course, you represent your country.
I did. I'm very happy. I'm glad I made it. This is my first time running here, so I'm glad I was able to make it.
Are you going to come again?
Yes, I have to. I have to beat my own record next time. So whatever my time was today, the goal is to beat it the next time.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you.
Natalie there from Jamaica.
So Natalie Burrows, we told you when she was competing that she was wearing the Jamaican bandana, even though she's listed as a US athlete. So she registered under the flag of the USA, but she ran with the Jamaica flag in that bandana. And she's 46 years old, and she has completed the half marathon, and she says she will be back because her target is to break the time that she set this year. We're looking at competitor number 34 in the marathon. That man is Benjamin Warner. He is from Great Britain, 42 years old, and Benjamin Warner has a second thumbs up to the cameras. He's enjoying himself out there. Good to see that he's strong enough to be able to acknowledge those around him. Still moving strong, but not even a mishap, you believe, could cause him to bridge the gap to this man way out front, Alex Akeza.
Well, George, what I can tell you about Alex Akeza now is that he's deep into the parish of St. Andrew. So he's past the Sand Dunes, George. He's past that KMV over, the Isolation Cavaliers cricket over that we talked about earlier, which tells me then that he's heading towards the likes of Shorey Village to make that final turn, to make that final loop, to come all the way back down to us. So he's definitely on pace for what we started talking about earlier in terms of that time that we expect him to do. As he looks at that watch again, I believe actually I've been told he took some water at that final station as well, George. So it's going to be interesting to see the pace coming back in here from Alex Akeza.
Yeah, he has had, well, I've counted 3 water stops that he's taken on some fluids at. So the outside the court, well, as it warms up outside, he will need those fluids. And yeah, still has that pouch in his left hand. But yeah, it's all about water for him at this point.
It's interesting that you mentioned warms up, George, because our athlete just came in for the half marathon.
Yeah, Natalie Burrows.
Yeah, Natalie Burrows. She mentioned that this is the warmest temperatures that she's running. And it's interesting because when I came here, it was pretty chilly, George.
Yep.
I told myself it's probably the coolest temperatures that I'll be running in. So it's always interesting, obviously, the perspective that we get from different athletes coming from different parts of the world as well.
Yes, indeed. And that's why we have Mariah out there doing that job to give us some insight from our competitors. So, Akeza, as you can see from the image, the ground just beginning to rise. Well, it rose for a bit there, almost as if, well, he's going downhill now, and he's on his way back to our start point here at the Barclays Picnic Park. He's already completed 1 loop.
And coming up very soon are going to be those slight slopes, and that we'll have to take on. So it'll be interesting at the pace that he takes those on with. But then he comes into what will be a very easy paced downhill incline, a slight incline that is, because as you know, we're still here in Barbados, and that will ease him down towards us here in the end, George. But to my mind, if my eyes aren't deceiving me, he's coming back past that Isolation Cavaliers cricket ground, which tells me that he's made that loop and coming back towards the likes of Bell Plain, towards the likes of the Walkers Reserve, which in fact is a sand quarry located here in the island of St. Andrew, the only one that sustains our construction industry here in Barbados. So quite a lot out here on the east coast of Barbados.
Yes, indeed. They are calling the top 3 finishers in the 7K to the presentation area, and we're going to take that for you as well. So in short order, we're going to have that presentation as Akeza continues to pound the turf and to build on that lead.
And to my mind, he's going to have a couple trees, fruit trees that he can, well, he won't partake in any of them because that will certainly put off his time. But I'm sure anybody walking in that stretch will stop and take a look at what's on offer, whether or not is something as simple as a coconut tree and a bit of coconut water will actually do our athletes some justice right about now.
Yeah, coconut water is available widely in Barbados. You hardly find a stretch of road that there isn't a coconut vendor or few by the roadside offering to fill a bottle for you.
That sun definitely now almost at its peak, you would like to say now, as it's now about 7:26 here in Barbados. The app is telling me, George, that it's only 25, but to my mind it feels a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
That sun definitely beaming past onto Alex Akeza as he comes back towards us here at that start point. A couple of water stations for him to pass before he gets us. So he once again has to pass the likes of Belplain. Actually, he's currently in Belplain making his way down. He's going to pass Long Pond back towards Chalky Mount with that famous sleeping giant that we've been talking about all morning. He's going to have that slight little decline as he makes his way all the way back down to the famous Barclays Park here in Barbados.
Yep, we're going to try to get an interview with the 6-year-old who competed in the 3K, Chloe Payne, the Barbadian, by far the youngest competitor today. The oldest competitor we had yesterday, we had an 86-year-old from Trinidad and Tobago competing in the women's 65 and over section of the 5K, and a 6-year-old today. We have 9-year-olds competing today, 10-year-olds, 11 and 12. So representation right across the spectrum.
Michael Stewart, third place in the 7K.
And yeah, so the presentation is ready for the 7K. Do we take some of that presentation? We're going to go there in short order. So we look again at the marquee for the start.
Still looking quite strong here, George, is Alex Akeza. And I'm not even sure who he has passed yet as it pertains to that marathon in terms of that loop, because as we know, these athletes will pass each other. Obviously, we're going to get that encouragement as we are back now to the start line. Possibly a couple competitors from that half marathon might be coming to that finishing line very soon.
Yeah, so we're 1 hour 56 minutes, 1 hour and 56 minutes deep into the marathon, and so a half marathon completed already. We've told you about that. Barbados winning the men's section, France winning the women's section of that, and hour 56. So we expect Akeza to be running for at least another 40 minutes. That would take us to about 2 hours and 2 hours and 36. Yeah. Or 240 thereabouts. So we expect him to be completing his run at that time, and good to see so many people out on this day to support the athletes. There was a massive crowd here on Saturday for the events, the 5K walk, the 5K run, the 10K. There we go to our presentation section as we're looking at the winners in the 7K. Carleen Robinson, Darcy Alexander, and Catherine Guthrie, the top 3 from the 7K.
They certainly look like they still have all of their energy within them, George. Carly, obviously, as we know, a half marathon runner, so we definitely do know that she has a lot more in that reserve tank of hers.
Yep. And then the men will be led by the competitor who wore bib 7400, Shamel Maynard.
And once again, that shot of Alex Akeza. I'm trying to gauge now where he is so we can see if we can get that guesstimate, that estimate on par in terms of timing. So I definitely know that he's still making his way throughout the parish of St. Andrew. He's passed maybe an area that we call Windy Hill. He will not actually run down Windy Hill, but it'll be very near to him. I can't make out just yet exactly where he is, George. What I can say though is that he's not that far out.
Yeah, no, we get a drone shot of that pretty shortly. So again, on the Barbados East Coast, we have the parish of St. John, although as we told you, St. John is the southernmost of the eastern parishes, if you want to put it that way. It's not far from the Grantley Adams International Airport. They say about 12 kilometers, which is about 25 minutes drive. Pause on that because there's the man, Shamel Maynard, the man who won the 7K, and fellow Bajan, 3rd place. So he has about 3 medals around his neck, Shamel Maynard.
He's definitely come to compete here today. It's interesting or rather nice to see all of the athletes come out this time around for Run Barbados being put on here on the East Coast. As once again we get a picture of our race leader Alex Akeza, but to all the athletes, so many of them venturing from near, far and all over to be here and to join us and to enjoy still looking quite easy is Alex Akeza. I dare say he's not really broken a sweat yet today, as to my mind he's making his way probably close now to the St. Andrew Parish Church that we told you about earlier, that one structure that would have survived the hurricane here in Barbados some many hundreds of years ago.
All right, we're going to run through the field a little bit to show you some other runners. And we don't have to fret about our race leader. There's a 70-year-old in the field, the oldest in the field, Enzo Torti, one of two Italians reported to the start list, and we're going to hope to pick him up as we go along. Looking through the field as well, we told you that there were 3 athletes in their 20s in this field. The youngest, Tristan Richards, Barbadian, 21 years old. Saw him early and looked as if he was struggling after about half an hour of the contest. Renako Foster, another Barbadian, 24 years old, and the second 24-year-old Lu Minjing, a Chinaman, 24 as well. So again, this shot showing you the waves coming in. This is a flavor of why this section of the island is popular with surfers. Surf enthusiasts dream this section of Barbados. As we look at the looks to be Benjamin Warner. Well, no, that's competitor number 8. That's actually Kenrick Bourne. Well, 6. Competitor number 6. Yes, Lu Minjing. Yeah, one of the two 24-year-olds in the field. One of, well, he's a Chinaman, Lu Minjing, and he is in the marathon and running by himself. He could be, well, Benjamin Warner may be second overall, so that would mean Lu Minjing looks as if he is third overall in the marathon at this stage. And finally, we're seeing some of the men behind Alex Akeza, who themselves are running private races. Zheng just having some water, taking some rest, and looking to see if he's being closed down. He could perhaps have a lie down and still not be caught by anybody behind him, because as we noted, the competitors in the marathon are so strung out. The MC outside, our commentary position, is calling the half marathon winners to assemble at the presentation area, so we hope to give you some of those images in short order. But yeah, Lu Minjing will be feeling the heat, perhaps not used to these temperatures. And the thing with the evening is that the morning rather, it starts so cool, perhaps even cold for some of us who are used to living in this part of the world. Cold, then cool, then it just gets warm, and all of a sudden the heat perhaps becomes a bit oppressive. And perhaps Lu Minjing will tell you that, yeah, the heat really got tough. He's being closed down by the man from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm going to tell you who he is in short order. The 59-year-old we spoke of earlier. But yeah, Zheng has a fight on his hands, trying to hold on to his position now. And maybe that's why when he took on the fluids just now, he was looking over his shoulder. Just had another peep once again. And we're going to stay with the picture until he's passed. I expect him to be passed anytime soon, Joel.
What I can tell you, George, that they're currently battling it out in the parish of St. Joseph. Our runners are actually in different parishes at this point. That parish boundary very close to where we are at this stretch here, as we can see a beautiful picture. Oh my goodness, George, it's green, it's lovely, it's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the east coast of Barbados. The lovely area of Cattle Wash is where you're getting the views from right now. The sea coming across as that battle continues right below you at the bottom of your screen. But they're heading now into what will be probably a very fresh area, George, surrounded by every tree you could possibly find on the island of Barbados. I'm pretty sure on this east coast you could maybe find every single tree, as Lu now is now overtaken on that stretch there. As they come back towards our starting point, they're going to make their way past as we get by now to see that presentation for the half marathon once again.
Yep, so Lu Minjing passed as if he was standing, and we're going to tell you who just drove by him just now. The winner of the half marathon, Joshua Hunt, the man in the middle. The man to his right is Elvis Turner from Trinidad and Tobago.
Alright, the 5K walk is on.
And meanwhile, the 5K walk, competitors in the 5K walk are on their way. So we're picking up this battle here. Lu Min Zheng offered no resistance when he was confronted by that man who was almost run by our mobile camera.
And it appears now possibly the competitors in our walking race,
the 5K
George.
walkers, they were just sent on their way.
I know this is the race for me here, George. This is the one that I would love to take on the
5K walk.
Sunday morning. A nice, easy stroll. The sun not too hot yet. It's bright, it's beautiful sunshine. This is definitely my race here. It'll be interesting, though, obviously, as we still have some marathon runners, as we see one here in a picture, still looking in good stride. You said he's 59 years old, George.
Yeah, number 29, competitor number 29, Rodney Blackman, 59 years old. Yeah, so Lu Min Zheng, we remind you, 24 years old from China. And when Mr. Blackman engaged top gear, he ran past Lu Min Zheng as if Lu Min Zheng was standing. So he is making progress. Running a smart race so far, Rodney Blackman, taking on some fluids now. And as the temperatures rise, he is lifting the pace. And wouldn't it be something if this 59-year-old finished in a podium place in this marathon? It really would be something. The leader and man who we expect to win, 39 years old, so 20 years his junior. He's not in that class these days, Blackman, but he won't worry about that. He won't try to beat the winner because that's impossible. He'll be trying to be the best of the rest. As we see the ladies here in the half marathon collecting their gongs. The woman in the center of the picture, Cecilia Mobocon, we told her that she's a medical doctor out of France at 35 years old, and she was much the best in the half marathon today.
Well, George, I can tell you that our 59-year-old is strongly making his way through the Scotland district of Barbados. I saw him take on some water, but I also saw him pour it on his legs, George. It would appear that things are definitely heating up on the outside indeed.
Yeah, which is why I made the observation that as the temperatures rise, he's looking to lift his own pace. And I think he has put decisive distance between himself and Lu Min Zheng. As we see our camera guy Selwyn trying to improvise to get him from the feet up. Good work, Rastaman.
Interesting question for you here, George. No, you're not a marathon runner, you're not a half marathon runner, nor a 10K nor 7K.
Nope.
You're a 5K walker, George. But in their mind,
I'm a sprinter, but go on.
Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that, George, a 10-meter sprinter. But
100-meter sprinter. But go on.
But George, in your mind, what is going through their mind in this marathon? What do you think they're thinking about?
Well, the thing is this. From here, it's just rhythm. It's just, as I noted, it's setting small targets, especially if you're running and you're in a good rhythm and you see someone in front of you, then you will engage a pace that you think will gradually take you onto that athlete's shoulders. And then if you need to give it a little bit more gas to get by, you will do so, and the pace that you engage to get by them, you'll try to hold that pace for as long as possible to then separate yourself from that competitor, and then you settle into another rhythm. So the marathon is about changes of gear, but the changes of gear obviously have to be subtle. That's unless and except where you are in a group sprinting at a particular point, sprinting to the finish, and you have to make what you call a dead run, which is to maintain a sprint for an extended distance. For him, if we use Rodney Blackman as our example, a competitor at 29, if we use him as an example, so the gear that he engaged to pass Lu Min Zheng is not necessarily the gear that he is running in now. He probably would have settled into a lower gear given that he already had the success of passing that athlete who was in front of him. time. So it's all about rhythm, it's all about subtle changes of pace, and it's all about gradually whittling away the distance between yourself and the rival who you spot ahead of you on the course.
It's interesting you talk about that pacing of self, that rhythm, but you also mentioned a sprint. Just a couple of years ago, I make it back in 2016, we actually had an amazing sprint finish for the marathon with the women, and I believe it was a Trinidadian who pipped two ladies on the line. They were running hand in hand, yes, George, to the finishing line, and she sprinted past them to take that win.
Yeah, she spoiled the dream finish for both those. What we can tell you is that the walkers, that was the last event to get underway. So early doors, the marathon and the half marathon started together. Then the 3K started, then the 7K, and now the 5K walk, the last event, is underway. And pretty much we'll be coming to the climax of the Run Barbados Marathon weekend. That climax will be signaled by the completion of the course by the marathoners as we go back to our field for the marathon and go back to the super veteran Rodney Blackman, the Barbadian, competing in the male 55 to 64 category. No doubt that he's leading that section, and we have this lady running strong, you know. She's competitor number 30. That's Felix Herimiarinsoa. I got that right. Felix Herimiarinsoa. She's from France. She's 42 years old, and she seems to be a lonely leader of the women's section of the marathon, running very, very strong.
Strong indeed. I'm actually going to just mention that, George. When we look at her, George, she definitely looks like she has a lot more in the tank. Obviously, no competition behind her, so she keeps an even pace, and she'll know that if she keeps this up to the end, she will definitely be the winner here today.
Yep. Look at the shoulders. The shoulders are relaxed. The knees are coming up to the level. The rotation is even, and again, it is all about rhythm. I can't think of any pursuit in life, any competitive pursuit or otherwise, where the right rhythm isn't the optimum thing that is being sought. And she is in that very good rhythm now, and hopefully for her sake she'll turn a corner perhaps and see a man or two in front of her, even if they are not in her race, because she won't know that, because she's only seeing their back. She's not seeing bibs, and she perhaps doesn't know what the bibs mean for the other competitors. She doesn't care, but she just needs a target to chase.
It's interesting, George, that you mentioned turn a corner, because very soon she'll actually be turning a corner to make her final swing towards coming back to us. So she's actually currently, you see a good little landmark there. She's passing the St. Andrew Post Office, George. So she's deep into the parish of St. Andrew right now, coming along that Belpain stretch that we've talked so much about. In fact, she's going to head up towards Shorey Village now and make a turn very shortly to make that final loop to come back towards us here at that starting point for the marathon.
Yeah, just a little check of the watch, just to ensure that the pacing is right. Getting a bit toasty inside our commentary position here. Our hard-working team have fashioned a solution for us, so we're a little bit more comfortable.
A solution that we both appreciate.
Oh yes, oh yes indeed. So these sweeping images again in the background. The sleeping giant rock formation, because it does look like a giant who is having a snooze. Permanent repose, you could call it. And this is just well, it's not virgin because there are people living out here, but it's as close as you can get. It is largely unspoiled, and I know Barbados and Barbadians very well. I know the Prime Minister and how she does her business, as we see Lady Felix taking on some fluids and sipping from a pouch, doing the Alex Ekeza thing.
To my mind, George, it's going to be quite interesting how they adjust here, because obviously, as you know, we started in much cooler temperatures, and things have definitely heated up for them on the outside, as it has for us here on the inside as well. So my question here, George, is how much does this heat factor begin to affect our competitors in what is now going to be the marathon?
Well, I tell you what, that's a good question, because what it does, it just makes you're more uncomfortable. You're more uncomfortable, and your body is heating up. When you are cool, it is easier to relax. It is easier to get a stride pattern, to get a rhythm going. When your body is warming up, you have to do more work to maintain optimum stride pattern and to maintain optimum rhythm. And so that's why the heat is oppressive for runners. And make no mistake, if you think about it, when you are doing any strenuous activity, if you are not used to running and you burst a sprint, you feel it in the lungs. Sometimes you breathe and it burns. So there will be traces of that burn. These are experienced runners who are used to running events of this nature, so their lung capacity is conditioned to perform at this level. But under hot circumstances where the heat is oppressive or near oppressive, it just begins to burn that little more. And that's the thing with hot conditions versus cool conditions, and then versus cold conditions, which presents another a challenge. But that's not an issue on this course. It's about the heat right now, and the heat makes the body take a long. What I would say, that the heat interferes with the body's thermostat, the way the body cools itself, and the way that you're comfortable to find the right rhythm.
Well, we see that clock now hitting 2 hours and 16 minutes as we talk about that heat factor. Our half marathoners, a few of them, they're sprinting to the end, so just a bit left in the tank for those guys completing that half marathon. Still quite a few athletes out on the course here on this beautiful east coast of Barbados. Beautiful views, beautiful people, George, and a beautiful race all around.
Yes, indeed. And the question the viewers may be asking is, all right, so we have 2 hours 16 and counting on the clock. How much longer till our marathon race leader comes in? Again, we expect Alex to come in around about 2 hours and 40 minutes, so maybe about 24 minutes more, and that's putting it at the high end. He'd love to come in at 2.5 hours, but I maybe think 2 hours 40. As we look at this lady once again, the woman from France, Felix Herminiarin-Soa. She's 42 years old, as we noted, and she is running very, very, very well. I'd be keen to, if our drone pilot could give us a perspective on the next woman in this marathon, or the woman behind her, how far away that person is. I don't think the gap between herself and second place in the women's race is as big as the race between the leader in the men's race and the second man, but I also think that she's enjoying a huge gap between herself and the chasing pack.
Well, she's definitely enjoying a huge gap, George, because we literally are seeing no one at all running her down. We're seeing people pass on the opposite side of her, and to my mind, those are people still going up as she is coming back towards us here at Barclays Park. The music is booming on the outside, which tells me that there's some people having a party, George. Those people who competed in that 10K and those people who competed in that half marathon, you know, they're all finished, they're lying down, they're getting their massages. Our marathon runners, though, are still going at it and still going at it strong. Those pictures tell me that they're still deep in the part of St. Andrew. A beautiful drone shot here of that lush scenery, that lush vegetation that we have here in Barbados. Oh, how I wish I could be that drone right now, George, because the air up there must be a lot fresher. I promise you that.
Absolutely. So just some perspective as we look at Lady Felix once again. Last year in the marathon in 2019, the winning woman, Fanja Felix, completed the course in 2 hours 59 minutes 0.11 seconds. Second passed the post Palmenia Raquel Agudelo Berrio, completed the course in 3 hours, 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Those two times were faster than the man who finished 5th in the marathon. So the top 2 women in the marathon completed the course faster than the man who finished 5th. I say that because this lady today is on course to perhaps finish the marathon in 2nd place. She may be second only to Alex Ekeza, the outstanding Kenyan, and I think my forecast is right, because I don't think any of the men chasing Ekeza are anywhere close enough to Ekeza or to her, and I think we may have the top 2 finishers being man and woman, which would be great for the event and the event's profile.
Great indeed, dare I say, phenomenal, George, and it would also speak to the caliber of athlete that's on display here, because honestly she's going up these inclines that we've been talking about. Once again, you say, you know, a couple of the locals had that foreknowledge, but she is definitely dealing with them in a great stride, still looking good, taking on those fluids, and I dare say she is going to be the top woman here today.
All right, we are standing by to take some more interviews with Mariah Ramarak as soon as she can grab a couple of those competitors.
We do see a couple. Go ahead, George.
No, I was saying to you that the Run Barbados Marathon weekend, I was having a conversation with the folks at Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., asking them about the big events that they put on annually, and they're saying, well, this is huge. We have other things. They spoke of a food festival and of course crop over, but the thing I'm focusing on is the additional things to the traditional forms of tourism that Barbados is seeking to create, to bring people to this part of the Caribbean. And as the fame and the quality of this marathon spreads, more people will come for the run, more people will come to watch people run, and the net result will be that Barbados' tourism gets a shot in the arm from having this event in this manner annually.
I can definitely agree there, George. Sports tourism definitely is big on our cards, and the Run Barbados Marathon certainly leading it, or probably just behind maybe something like a cricket, but it's definitely high on the cards in terms of who it attracts, what it attracts, and it's definitely wonderful to have them all here. There's also the likes of heritage tourism that comes into play as well, whether or not it's based down in Bridgetown with the new wall, the Builders Wall of Barbados, whereby every single last name of a person who has ever been in Barbados, ever lived in Barbados, worked in Barbados, their name is on that wall. I don't know, George, you might be able to head down there and maybe see your last name on that wall. I took a trip down there the other day.
It is very likely, as we look at Felix Minarin Soa, the Frenchwoman, continuing to set herself apart from the females in the event and most of the men as well. The thing is this, when you consider that the other end of the island, I mean, people know about the 5-star resorts, resorts of various star gradings. The fact of the marathon coming to this part of the island is, I think, the most brilliant way that Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. could have gone about opening up the eastern side of the island to say, hold on, you think you've seen the real essence of the gem of the Caribbean? Come and have a look-see on this side. And I can't think of any greater marketing tool, or well, not marketing tool, but marketing initiative to pin the hopes of offering more to the tourism public than to run a race of this nature in a place of this nature.
It definitely exposes your mind to more than just sand, sea and sun, George. It also exposes it to relaxation as well, because as you mentioned, there's a lot more hustle and bustle towards the south coast and the west coast of Barbados. As you venture over here to the east, now you have your eco lodges, you have your what's the word I'm looking for in my head here, George? Guest houses.
Yes.
Your relaxed guest houses, because we do have the guest houses on the south and the west as well, but the nature of how they're constructed is slightly different out here on the east. When you open up, you have your patios, and your patios offer you views of the very same cattle wash that our runners are passing by, the very same views of Bathsheba and the Bathsheba rocks, and you get a chance to just walk out, maybe even catch your own breakfast as well, because you can find a lot of the locals out here, you know, on a morning, and they'll help you catch your fruit. They'll rather help you pick your fruit, catch your breakfast, help you cook it as well, George. So it's a different side to the tourism.
All right, we're going to come back to this very shortly. Mariah Ramarak has another interview lined up for us.
Well, I was able to catch up with Corey Goretti, Director of Latin America and Caribbean Sports. Corey, congratulations on an event well done.
Well, thank you very much, Mariah. Thank you very much to the entire SportsMax team for coming here and covering the marathon live. I mean, it is our 39th edition, so we are very, very happy. Obviously, as we've been hearing all weekend, we moved the entire race to the scenic East Coast. I mean, watching the sunrise here this morning, the sky was fire bright orange. It's a nice, lovely hot day, as you know. So, I mean, everything is working for us. You know, the participants are here. We have international competitors, we have local competitors, we have Caribbean competitors. One just walked across our camera shot there, as you know, from Jamaica. So I mean, at the end of the day, we're just happy to have everyone here and really stage this huge, what is actually the Caribbean's biggest marathon.
Yeah, how do you feel knowing that, you know, a lot of work went into this and you could finally see everything come to life?
Well, I mean, it's just an ecstatic feeling. I mean, the BTMI teams, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. teams, of course, our race director, Zari Eveling, we've been at this for months, and part of the entire process, people have been asking us all weekend is like, why did we change the route? How did we come to this entire event concept? What we at the BTMI understand is that the Caribbean primarily is driven by event-based tourism, even if it's actually married by a sport. And we know sports is also big in Barbados, and sports is big in tourism. It's actually one of the hard niches that the BTMI markets on. So what we've done basically is combine all of that. We've combined our scenic East Coast, we've combined a sporting event, we've combined an event, you know, yesterday we had the big family picnic, etc. So what we've really done is created an event for people in the Caribbean and people in the international arenas to really see as a premier event. I was saying earlier, part of our entire process has been benchmarking the entire marathons around the world. So we looked at the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon, we looked at marathons in Hawaii, and one of the unique things that always came about was the landscape. Whether it was a cityscape, whether it was a coastal route, whether it was a mountain range, the landscape has always built into it. And that's why the entire move to the East Coast, you know, we getting the feedback and we're listening to all the feedback, but the move to the East Coast is really a strategic move for us because we're really developing this entire tourism component. The East Coast is, of course, one of our huge tourism attractions in a whole. So just bringing the race down to this part of Barbados, I think has been a great experiment, and we look forward to the 40th running of the Run Barbados Marathon next year. Looking forward, of course, for our SportsMax team to be back covering it live once again, and you can only expect bigger and better for next year. As in the first year with everything, one or two glitches along the way as usual. You know how Murphy is, but I think from the feedback from the media that's here covering the event, we can pat ourselves on the back for a very well executed event this year.
Well, I can tell you on behalf of me and my SportsMax team, we're looking forward to next year, and of course congratulations to you and your team on a job well done.
Thank you very much, Mariah, and of course, as I said once again, big up SportsMax, all the fans in Jamaica watching, of course all on the cable networks, Flow, whether you have Flow or Digicel, thank you for tuning in, and next year make it a point to be here for the 40th, because if there's one thing that we do good in Barbados, you see the half the party yesterday, next year the 40th anniversary, you can definitely understand we can go even bigger and better next year.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you.
Back to you, team.
Thank you very much, Mariah. So, our race leader in the women's marathon continues to churn along. Felix Heribiniarinsoa from France. Huge gap between her and the next best placed female. We can tell you that the king and queen of the Barbados Marathon over the years, there's a Brit, Hugh Jones, whose name looms large in the history of the Run Barbados Marathon. He won the marathon 6 times between 1990 and 1996. In fact, Hugh Jones holds the course record, the record for the Barbados Marathon, the fastest time ever registered for the Barbados Marathon, 2 hours 22 minutes and 33 seconds, set by Hugh Jones in 1991. And speaking of the Queen, Kim Goff, the American, she has won the marathon 11 times. Kim Goff, the American, an 11-time winner of the Barbados Marathon, and she truly was a credit to the event, the history of the event built on her exploits. Fact of the matter is, so this happens now. You just saw her there stretching her arms. Imagine holding your arms in that dry phase. Look at that. That's just to relax, because sometimes your biceps begin to burn. Your biceps burn after being in that position for so long, and so you just to get a release, you just ease your arms down in the straight position, and then just to get a little break, just to almost to shake them out a little, in the way you shake your legs sometimes, just to shake them out a little, shake out the cramp, shake out the burn, and then you hit back your stride again. So she was just feeling a little bit of discomfort in those biceps for a split second, and she just gave herself some relief, and now she's back in good running again and checking that watch to ensure that she's on pace.
Well, I definitely love our viewers to know that George was actually in here also shaking as well as he made that point. What's also interesting to note, though, is the fact that some male competitors are passing her going the opposite direction, telling you that she's definitely miles and miles ahead of the field, whether both male or female. I also had a chance to look at that clock whilst we had the image of our start finishing line here at Barclays Park, and to my estimation, it told me that based on your calculations, George, probably about another 12 minutes to when we see our race leader Alex Akeza come back towards us.
Yes. Mariah Ramarak has another interview lined up for us. We go to her outside.
All right, congratulations, Selma, one of the youngest finishers in the half marathon today.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, how proud are you of your achievements? You know, how was it for you today?
I'm really happy. I was hoping to get this time, and I've really been working hard a few months to train for this, so I'm really happy.
You know, one of the things I found difficult for athletes based on my interviews today is that coming down to the finish line, you know, they felt as if, you know, their feet was cramping up, their body didn't want to go anymore. Did you feel any sort of symptoms?
Yeah. It was really hot in the end, and my feet were really hurting, but I knew I just had to keep going. And
But what helped you to push through?
My dad. He pushes me, and he ran with me the whole time. So, yeah.
And do you see yourself participating in the Run Barbados Marathon in the future?
Yeah, I really think so. I hope I can come here next year too, and hopefully do better too.
And what did you like most about the event? What did you enjoy most about today?
I think just it was really nice weather, and it was just really fun. I enjoy racing. It can be a little bit scary sometimes, but it's exciting, and especially in the end when you know you're almost finished.
Well, congratulations, and of course keep up the good work.
Thank you.
That was Selma Nordgarden. We told you the youngest competitor in the half marathon field, and yes, it's confirmed, Joel. She was running with her father, Daniel, 44 years old, so 13-year-old Selma completing the course, and she is a credit to this year's event with the way she spoke, and more than that, the way she performed.
Definitely, indeed, 13 years old and finishing strong, still able to talk after half marathon, George, unbelievable to my mind. But she talked about something that we talked about a bit earlier in terms of the conditions. She said it was quite nice, but coming on to the end, things got a bit hotter, it got a bit more difficult, and I believe that is what we're experiencing now, or what we're seeing now with our marathon athletes who are actually bearing the brunt now of that heat, because obviously our half marathoners, you know, with the gotten in just before the sun really got to its peak, but these guys here still on the screen running, George, they're going to definitely be feeling that heat coming down right about now.
And I can tell you the thing about the heat when you're running long distances, because even though for the short time in high school that I was a sprinter, I competed at Boys and Girls Champs. I'm putting that out there.
No problem. Go ahead, George. Take your props.
So there you go. You would do a lot of training, a lot of distance training, and what is true, Joel, is that when you start running early when it's cool, and you run into mid-morning when it gets hot, it's almost as if your body doesn't realize that it's gradually warming up. All of a sudden, you're just warm and you realize that, hell, it's gotten hot. And that's what would have confronted a lot of the less experienced runners on this course today, like Selma and like some of the others in the half marathon, and some of them I'm sure who are feeling the brunt of it in the marathon. Experienced runners would know that, yeah, this is what will happen, so their mind is conditioned to it. But it's not as if you gradually get warmer. You're running and all of a sudden you realize, hey, it's not cool anymore, I'm hot, and you realize, oh hell, it's heating up. And that's what happened. That confronts the runners, and if you're not experienced, you can't deal with that.
So is it at this stage then that the fluids and liquids that we've been focused on so heavily in the beginning come into play now? Because we talked a lot about how many of them passed those water stations in the beginning. Are we going to see all of them now at those water stations in the end?
Absolutely so, because you don't take many swallows of saliva. That whole process that is natural to all of us. We don't even realize what we're doing. Oh, here we go. The marathon winner. The marathon winner is coming home. The marathon winner is coming home. Alex Ekeza, watch the clock. Let's see the clock. 2 hours 34 minutes. 2 hours 34 minutes. So I was about 6 minutes off. I didn't think he would run the time he did last time when he won the marathon. I thought he would have gone slower, and he did. But he said, George, I wasn't as slow as you expected. I am in great form, and he is. And 2 hours 30 minutes, 0.37 seconds in 2019, the last time we had the Run Barbados Marathon. 2 hours 34 minutes by my calculation today. It's still a fantastic achievement.
Still fantastic indeed, George. Hats goes off to Alex Ekeza for that run. He still had energy to keep on going past that line. Maybe the slopes, George, might have accounted maybe because obviously we had a change in course. The previous course is by significantly flatter.
Yeah, it's a pancake course. That was that. Yeah.
Very much so. Smoother roads going down that highway coming from the airport down towards the Bridgetown stretch. And so maybe next year, having found out the course, George, knowing how it is, you might see a by far better time from him.
Absolutely so. So Ekeza doing what we expected after we saw his dynamite performance in the 10K yesterday, where he blitzed the field. He's given the field more blitz medicine today, really detonating rivals today, and the 39-year-old Kenyan comes through a lone winner. The challenge now, or the great thing now, Joel, is to see how much time will be between him and the second place finisher. This woman, Felix, I have to be careful with her name, Felix Hereminiarinsoa, is on course to finish second overall, and let's see how close she gets to the unofficial time of 2 hours and 34 minutes by our calculation, done by Alex Ekeza.
To my mind, with the buses in the backdrop, it tells me that she's fairly close to us, George. Like I mentioned before, those buses on occasion back in the day, the children had to get out. That bus is marked Bathsheba. That is definitely the direction that we're coming in towards the parish of St. Joseph. We do finish in St. Andrew, but just past the boundary is St. Joseph. But that funny story of children have to get out the bus and let the bus go over the hill. She needs no bus today, though. She is looking as strong as those very buses coming up those inclines. Of course, like I said, just before the end of the course, you have those, I was going to say steep, but that would be, I guess, a bit of an oversell in terms of what we have here in Barbados. But it's still much of an incline to take on, especially after 2 hours of running. But as soon as she gets to the top of that, George, it is all downhill, but uphill in terms of the performance that she delivered here today.
Yeah, an incline is a gradient. It doesn't matter what. I mean, some have higher elevation, some have low, but it still is what it is. She's running so strong. She looks as if she joined the race about 10 minutes ago. Look at the bounce in her steps. It means that each time she lands, she really feels power. So she's pushing off with power. She's not struggling to lift those legs. And Ekeza will catch his breath. Does he need to even catch his breath before he walks to the interview position with Mariah Ramarak? Outstanding from the Kenyan, the outstanding double he has done, and as he knocks fists with a couple of his competitors, sure, he's looking for some fluids now, but our outstanding Kenyan is the star of the Run Barbados Marathon weekend, along with Layla McIntyre at 11 years old, who's done some great things over the 2 days, winning the 3K. In case you joined late, the winner of the 3-kilometer race was a young Barbadian, only 11 years old, Layla McIntyre. She's from a sporting family, Harrison College student, and she was outstanding. But really the star of the event, the star of the proceedings, the one bona fide, well, I'd include this woman as well, but the bona fide world-class athlete that we've been privileged to witness at these at this two-day racing carnival, I'm calling it, the Run Barbados Marathon weekend, without a doubt, Alex Ekeza, the man from Kenya.
A racing carnival indeed, as we now get that shot of our 59-year-old from
Rodney Blackman,
Trinidad and Tobago.
yes, sir.
Correct. So yes, he's still going at what is a very steady pace, George.
I'm not cutting you, but if we stay with him just a little bit, the thing with Rodney Blackman, I think here's what happens. If you look at his hands, now look at his hands. If you look at the other runners, Ekeza and Felix Hermini-Ristau, they ball fists. So their hands are balled into fists as they run. When you are running like that with your hand loose, not in a fist, it's a sure sign that you're getting tired. So our 59-year-old Rodney Blackman is getting tired. We can excuse him that, the super veteran, but it's a telltale sign that you are not as fresh as you would want to be. And it's so simple. When you unball your fists and you let your hands, you loosen your hands, it is relaxing. It is almost therapeutic. So maybe he will gather himself for one last push if he has a particular time in mind, and he'll ball those fists again. But for the moment, the loose hands, the loose fingers, it is an indicator of tiredness. Look at Felix's hands by contrast. She has those fists, or the way you set your hands when you run, because she's powerful, she's strong, she's feeling it. Rodney Blackman feeling the pinch just a little bit, but I think he's safe in his position. I don't think he'll be passed by any of the men behind him, and he's done an outstanding job up to this point.
An outstanding job indeed, because the energy required, especially as things definitely heat up. So it's not even warming up, George, anymore. It's heating up.
Yep.
Because outside now has that stinging heat feel.
Yep.
That you almost get at midday. So it's not even midday yet here in Barbados, but you have that pinch of the sun, and that sun is definitely going to pinch a lot of the athletes as they come towards what is the ending of this marathon right about now.
And what happens is that, separate and apart from the heat itself from the sun, all of a sudden the sun's rays hit the road, and then the heat from the road rises. The heat from the road rises, and it transmits through the footwear. These athletic footwear for distances such as these are designed to insulate against that. But there's no doubt that there is some form of conduction of heat that takes place. And as the sun heats up the road, the heat from the road rises. So that also acts against the athlete. So all in all, Joel, what we're saying is that it's a very challenging time of morning to be doing this kind of running.
Very challenging indeed. I want to be the walkers, George, because they are taking a nice stroll, they're taking the views, they're heading towards that St. Joseph area with the likes of Joe's River Bridge and whatnot. They, to my mind, are the, I wouldn't necessarily say the smarter ones on hand, but they are the ones that I would definitely join along in. I will definitely parade, or rather congratulate our runners in the likes of Felix that we have here on the screen right now. She's actually passing quite a few individuals on that road. I can't make out what they might have been a part of, maybe the half marathon or the marathon.
They may be marathoners who have given up the ghost and are just trying to complete the course whichever way they can. But I'm just amazed. From the time that we've been focusing on her, you can tell how well a marathoner is going, or a distance runner is going, by the shoulders. Is the head, the neck, is it sunken in the shoulders? That's an indication of pressure. Are the shoulders stiff? That's an indication of pressure. Are the fists loose? That's an indication of pressure. Are the knees coming up or are staying down? That's an indication of pressure. Are the feet dragging? That's an indication of pressure. None of those things are happening now. Mariah has our champion, the fast man, the man of endurance, the superstar, Alex Ikeza of these proceedings. He's with Mariah Ramarak now for his interview.
Well, congratulations, Alex. You figured out how to do this course. You figured out how to win a marathon, and we say congratulations.
Thank you so much for your compliments. I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers and every participant who actually have traveled from far away, up countries and within the region to make sure that the Run Barbados is a success.
How were you able to bounce back from that 10K win yesterday to today?
I think it's because I was prepared, and all along the past months I've been preparing, and I knew behind my mind that I was coming to do a 10K and full marathon back to back, and so I was well prepared for that.
There's a secret, and you have to tell me the secret, because the Kenyans, they have mastered the marathon.
Actually, I wouldn't say per se that there is much about, or there is a secret to marathon running. It's all based on one's goals and aspirations and why people want to run. And I would say the secret to running or perfecting or being a success in any field or any endeavor, one as an individual has to figure it out. Because I would say to some extent is because we come from humble backgrounds.
Right.
And we know where we're coming from. We might not know where we're going, but we know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
So our backgrounds becomes our inspirations. And because we come from a humble beginning, we want to get out of some of the misfortunes or the poverty that we are in.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you congratulations. You are our 2022 marathon winner. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Mariah Ramarak there with the champion in the marathon contest, Alex Ikeza. And excellent job. He says, look, there's no secret. It's hard work, really. And he came into this race superbly conditioned. I wanted to get his perspective, Joel, on what he thought of his time. 4 minutes outside what he did last year. But as we told the viewers at the top, and as you mentioned when he crossed the line, the course is different. The 2 hours 34 minutes is a record because it is the first time the marathon is being run here on the East Coast. So it is what you call a course record, even though we have acknowledged that the Brit Hugh Jones is the record holder where the Barbados marathon is concerned at 2 hours 22 minutes and 33 seconds.
Well, to my mind, George, as I see on the screen here, looks as our female competitor Felix, she's making her way back onto what we consider the home stretch of this marathon, and certainly looking strong as she comes along. At one point I could hear some cheers going up on the outside, and she will definitely be looking forward to having all those. Actually, she's now passing a bus stop there, George, and I can see people clapping for her. So lovely encouragement. Those persons probably heading to church here after all. It is Sunday morning, and church is still very much of a staple in Barbados. Now views of our 59-year-old competitor. He was doing that stretch, George, that you happened to be doing just a bit earlier.
Yeah, hands still loose. So this is perhaps all just guts now from our veteran. He's experienced. Clearly, he's an experienced runner, and he's just gutsing it out all the way till he finishes the course. There are only 8 women, Joel, who started the marathon. Only 8. So Felix Herimiarin Soa is the best of 8 so far. So clearly her target wasn't to finish ahead of the women. She felt she had them beaten. Her target is to finish in front of as many men as possible, and she's on course, well on course to being second overall, to being not just the winner of the women's section, but second only to the outstanding, the peerless Alex Ikeza.
Well, trying to beat them all, George, she's only not managed to beat one, and that in itself is definitely commendable on her part. And honestly, George, as you mentioned before, still looking strong, still bouncing, and still in a good stride. Obviously trying to pick the smoothest route towards us here, and that's something that the athletes have talked about, the competitors have talked about, in terms of the uneven surface, and thankfully none of them have done themselves any harm taking that route today and yesterday. But she comes up probably what might be the final incline before getting towards that little slope coming down towards us. So that final burst of energy she's probably engaging here now, and saving energy now on the other hand here now as he makes his way downwards. George, he too, to my mind, is on that final stretch towards us. So probably not too long, probably another maybe 20 something minutes before we see possibly the second male competitor to cross the line here in the Run Barbados Marathon.
Yeah, very good from the veteran to put himself in this position, Rodney Blackman. If you notice his strides, when we get that shot again, Mr. Director, we could look at the feet of Rodney Blackman, because there's something I want to point out to the viewers about Rodney Blackman's stride pattern right now, as we look at Lady Felix running as strong as when we picked her up many minutes ago. Running very, very strong, and she is, as we said, this section of the roadway, if you look at this right now, it's almost as if he's shuffling, and that's the thing. He's remaining upright. they teach you in running, Joel, that once you swing your arms, your feet must move. That's what they tell you. They say, look, as long as your arms move, your feet will move. And it is almost a shuffle from the veteran just now. But he knows what he's doing. He knows what his energy reserves are. And he knows that he's just gutsing it out from here. He's staying upright. He's under no pressure. Lu Min Zheng, whom he passed several minutes ago, is way behind him, and he just needs to keep that upright form, swing those arms, and he'll be able to come home. For her, she's just constantly checking the clock because obviously she has time targets that she wants to hit. No threat that any of the other 7 women will get anywhere close to her. They couldn't touch her with a barge pole.
Well, George, for our guy Rodney, 59 years old, I call that muscle memory. That's what I call it for him. But as we see Felix here now, she's back into that Chalky Mount section of St. Andrew. Very close to us here, just a ways away from her at Barclays Park. So on her right, she's going to have the views once again of that sleeping giant. And that sleeping giant might just awake for her, George, and encourage her as she comes home.
Yep. Difficulty for her is picking the best sections of the road to pound, and as Joel pointed out, she was looking at those spots, and that's one of the advantages that Alex Ekeza would have had from his run in the 10K yesterday. He would have known, okay, so that stretch of road is particularly uneven, so if I pull to the shoulder, I should get a better run than down the middle, or if I pull to the middle, I get a better run. But he would know his spots and be able to pick those spots and to conserve as much energy, because one of the things going through bumpy ground is that you have to expend energy to zigzag or to place your feet more firmly so that you don't roll your ankles. So all of those are involved in competing on bumpy ground, and it's the expenditure of more energy that is the real factor. There's a word that describes competing in conditions like this. It's enervating. The way the word is set up, it would sound as if it's related to energy, energizing, energetic. Enervating actually means the opposite. It means draining. It means feeling tired. Running through bumpy road has an enervating effect on runners, and so Felix would now be looking, should now be looking to see the best stretches. Now this is uneven in a different way. This is not as cut up as the other stretch of less than desirable road that we saw her compete on, but it would still pose a challenge. But she's so comfortable right now that nothing is phasing her as she goes through this phase of the race.
I'm happy that you mentioned that enervating, George, because we talked about those times that we had for the marathon with regards to Alex Ekeza and questioning whether or not he could actually go a bit faster. So with better conditions definitely out here on the East Coast, without having to think about picking the right path and that zigging and zagging, which definitely takes a toll on your mind as well, because you must now think about several different things as well beyond your race plan, beyond your race stride and your rhythm. You must also now think about your race path, and all of that adds, of course, to the time. So we're definitely looking forward, George, to next year when we could definitely see a smoother surface and see probably better times, or times being bettered in this run Barbados Marathon.
I have no doubt you'll use your good offices to ensure that every inch of this East Coast road is paved baby bottom smooth. Speaking of smoothness, we hope that all goes smoothly with Andrew Gill, and that he was just transported, we understand, to a medical facility by one of the ambulances here. Andrew Gill, the 22-year-old Barbadian who competed in the half marathon, felt the effects out there on the course and had to be spirited away by ambulance to a medical facility. We certainly hope that Andrew is just enervated, he's just winded, and that it's nothing serious, and we hope that the young man will be fine and dandy not too long from now. It's just a measure of how difficult the conditions are, because as we said, the heat is now oppressive. We spoke about that oppression earlier when it was warming up. As you noted, it's not warming up anymore, it's hot now, and so it's a very tall challenge, which makes Rodney Blackman's performance to this point, Joel, even more remarkable at 59 years old, that even though it is visible that he's tiring, he still is maintaining his form and is still running through, determined to see this course through to the end.
Determined indeed, as we see some more beautiful shots of this east coast of Barbados, that lush vegetation of Barbadians probably making their way to church and other places as one lady makes her way towards that finish line, still looking as strong as ever, and we get ready to welcome her very soon. My estimation, I'm not sure exactly where on the map, but I'm seeing some cones which tells me that she's probably extremely close, George. I'm seeing volunteers as they clap her in.
Yeah, so I would think she is, I think she's about 20 minutes away.
Probably even less, George.
Yeah, when I said 20, upper limit.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Upper limit, yeah. I don't think she has more than 20 minutes to go. So I think 20 minutes is the upper limit, and I think that's what we're working with where Lady Felix is concerned. So she should be coming home in that time.
Well, the cars that are parked along the sides let me know that she's definitely extremely close, because I cannot imagine going to park too far away, George, from that starting line.
So she may be even 10 minutes away from the finish, and she's running strong. The thing I can see, look, the arms have dropped. She's swinging harder, which means that she's increased the pace. There are the portable loos, so she's even closer than that. She's
home,
inside.
George. She's
home. Yeah, home. There's the buses, and she's coming home. Let's take that live shot. Here we go. Excellent. The time 2:54. So 2:54. So she was 14 minutes behind Alex Ekeza, 14 minutes behind. This is outstanding running from Felix Herimiarin Soa. And let me put that in context for you, Joel. Let me put that in context for you. So based on our unofficial clock, she finished within 14 minutes of Alex Ekeza. Last year, the last time we had the Barbados Marathon in 2019, we didn't have one in 2020, didn't have one in 2021. The last time we had it, the male winner, Alex Ekeza again, finished 29 minutes in front of the woman who won her section. So a 29-minute difference. The fact of Felix getting within 14 minutes of what Alex Ekeza did, that's outstanding running, my friend.
Beyond outstanding, I dare say phenomenal. Dare I say probably might not be repeated anytime soon. And it speaks to how she went about this course here today, George, which we know was not the easiest of courses for our athletes. So clearly her race strategy coming in had to be amazing. Her race preparation had to be amazing, George, and the race itself had to be amazing to come within 14 minutes of Alex Ekeza.
And I'll give you something better than that as well, my friend. I'll give you something better than that, my friend. If it is that Alex Ekeza had someone pushing him, he would have gone faster. If Felix Herimiarin Soa had someone pushing her, she would have gone faster. And what is interesting for me to consider, what if Felix at least had Alex in her sights? I'm not saying she would have beaten him, because we know she wouldn't have beaten him based on what they showed today. But if she had him in her sight and said, okay, he is a target, I'm going to gradually try to get as close as I can to, she would have gone significantly faster than the 2:54. This is outstanding running, and I think we have seen something special today. The men's marathon champion put on a special performance, and the women's marathon champion has put on an outstanding performance. Arguably, I'm more impressed with Felix Herimiarin Soa's performance than Alex Ekeza because of the manner of how she ran and the fact that she was one of only 8 women at the start, and to run within 14 minutes of the man who won the race, I think that's phenomenal.
This marathon has certainly turned out to be a breath of fresh air, George, in every sense of the word, given that this is the first year it's moved to the East Coast. In the first year we have seen a performance like this from a woman in the Run Barbados Marathon.
Absolutely so. And again, for more perspective, if we look at the time, we're going to tell you shortly, is that number 19?
Yes, indeed. Athlete number 19, that's chipping away.
That's Alex Schertz, the Swiss. He's from Switzerland. He's 50 years old. And Alex Schertz Where is he now, Joel? Give me a placement for him. Where's that looking like?
Well, what I can tell you, George, is that he's actually in Barbados.
There you go.
Because obviously with the picture, there's several trees on the east coast, George. So what I can tell you without certainty, or rather with certainty, is that he's in Barbados. He's also in the parish of St. Andrew. Which part of that parish? I'm not too certain. As we get that overhead shot now, I'm going to try to tell you what trees are here. Actually, let me not do that because I will embarrass myself. I'm not I was going to say treeologist, but I don't believe that's the word that I should be using here on our broadcast. But he's still looking strong as he goes over that bridge. Actually, I should be able to find out the name of that bridge for you very shortly.
All right,
George.
while you do that, let me put some perspective on the performance by Felix Hemier-Insoa, because last time we had the Barbados Marathon, so her time we have it unofficially as 2 hours 54 minutes. Last year, on a better surface, not a better course, because I think the scenery here and the picturesque nature of the East Coast, it's a better course than the original Barbados Marathon course. But the original Barbados Marathon course had a pancake flat surface. The surface is bumpy in parts. Fania Felix last year won in 2 hours 59 minutes, so 5 minutes slower than on this less than ideal surface. This is a phenomenal performance this year, and again for me this has been the performance of the Run Barbados Marathon 2022 series.
I have to agree with you there, George. You mentioned the flat pancake surface, but beyond that, George, there are no slopes going upwards.
There you go.
On that surface as well, and that speaks to the performance that she's put in here, because she's not only had to deal with those slopes once, George, or twice, but 4 times, given that we've looped on this venue here on the east coast of Barbados. It really tells you about what she has in her reserve tank, with the ability to do a performance like that and outpace on a flatter downhill surface.
Absolutely. So as we look at Schwartz's running form, the Swiss, Alex Schwartz, as we said, 50 years old, upright, back ramrod straight, stride pattern, befitting of a man of his build, but he's being closed down though. This is interesting. The man behind him, we're going to take a shot of the bib number of the man behind him, because Schwartz suddenly has company. 3 minutes ago when we looked at him for the first time, we didn't see this man closing him down, but Schwartz can hear those footsteps, I am sure. And we're going to pick up his bib number very shortly. Joel is my spotter. He's riding shotgun without a shotgun.
They call this 2020
vision.
He
Stopped.
Oh, he stopped.
Oh my goodness. Just as we were getting excited,
Okay, so far
he stopped. So let's look at Schwartz again. Let's catch Schwartz.
we still have 30
And he has stretched you. He's stretching the lead with every stride. And I don't know about you, Joel. I have Schwartz in my sights. I'm not stopping.
I mean, it's not about not stopping, George. It's what you have left in the tank.
Well, I'm not stopping. I'm leaving it all out there. I'm leaving it all out there.
Well, I can tell you that Schwartz looks to have the more in his reserve tank at this moment. Obviously, it's understandable, the heat there, we keep talking about it, and it's a very important factor for these runners, because they started at 5:30 with I want to say a wind chill, and I'm going to call it that, George.
Yeah,
I'm going to call it a wind chill coming off of that Atlantic Ocean. So they started with that, George, and things just gradually got hotter, but right about now it is steaming hot on the outside of that route that they are running, and to be honest, I think I would stop as well, George.
Well, I tell you what, we started 3 hours and 3 minutes ago, and the conditions are a world away from how we started. In fact, when we began, the drone shot had to wait a little while before it could give us those images. The pilot had to wait a while before he could give us those images because it was so dark. As we look at the route once again, Cattle Wash, Bathsheba, the Joes River Bridge, started at the Barclays Park, Picnic Park, and finishing at the same place. And the route, I keep telling you, the original Barbados Marathon course, better surface, obviously, because that's in the city. This place is the best course. Once the road is fixed, then I don't think Barbados will stage a marathon anywhere else but right here on the East Coast.
I have to agree with you, George. I take this trip every single marathon, even though I live on the other side of the island. Like I said, this spot is where the relaxation is really at. You pack your picnic basket, you come down, you spread your blanket, probably just on those lawns, Barclays Park, just there behind our start-finishing line, as we see some BTMI workers who are now having a bit of fun, I guess, at the end of what has been a hard weekend for all of them. But we didn't talk about Farley Hill just yet, George, and it's actually the Farley Hill Marathon and a half marathon. They're definitely having a lot of fun out there, George. I would like to join them at some point. But Farley Hill offers you the same breathtaking views and scenery. It's actually another picnic spot, a national park here in Barbados. Many persons actually travel to get married at Farley Hill National Park as well.
Yep, that is at the same route that you'll trek.
Almost. So the runners have gone up. Oh, you're talking about the marriage, George.
There you go.
You tried to trick me there.
Took you a minute. Took you a minute, my friend.
We're going to talk about the running, and we're going to finish with the running here today, George. I'm not running down the aisle just yet.
There you go.
I'd have to say myself. I'm neither running outside also, but maybe I'll picnic at Farley Hill. I can promise you that.
I'm sure you'll picnic. There you go. All right, so the clock, 3 hours and counting. The 5K walkers, just checking with my Mr. Director, the 5K walkers, they've come in already. We'll tell you more about that.
I heard a couple cheers on the outside.
Yes,
You told me that
some
of them have come in.
So I wanted to catch a glimpse of the chap. They've gone away from our mobile camera, has gone away from the chap who looked to have stopped at the crucial point when he was closing Alex Shirts down. Now Alex Shirts has gone way out of his orbit. He can forget about reeling in the Swiss national in this contest, and did so much work to get within distance of Alex Shirts and then gave up the ghost. That's the disappointing part for me. But as Joel said, well, George, you don't know what he's feeling. The man's chest could be frying like an egg, so he had nothing left, and he did well to get close, but he got close, but he really couldn't land a blow.
Well, it almost looks as we might be getting ready for somebody soon. I see some peering eyes going down that stretch. We see the chairs going up there, George. Is it a walker or is it somebody from the marathon?
I think it's a runner who's coming in. I think it's a runner who's coming in, and the folks, or it's a walker.
Oh, well, they're having a bit of a chip, so I dare say it can't be a walker, because that'll be a disqualification there, George. So it might potentially
the walking form sometimes resembles running from afar. So let's see.
And I can say they did bring a cheering party with them as well. So it actually might be the second woman. Yes, indeed. So we have our second woman now crossing the line in the marathon in 3 hours, 5 minutes, George. So the second woman beats the second man here.
Well, let's look at that. I saw 10:29 on the bib. That's a half marathon number, though.
Oh, wow.
10:29. So 10:29 is Chloe Lark from Barbados. That looks to be Chloe at 27 years old. Number 31, this is a marathoner, number 31 in the pink leggings. She is Philippa Sylvester, a Bayesian, 41 years old. And there, my friend, is the woman who's second in line in the marathon, Philippa Sylvester.
I was getting a bit ahead of myself there, George.
No problem, my friend, not a problem.
She too, honestly, is looking quite strong. Honestly, George, I admire the strength of these athletes on display here today, because once again, it's definitely not easy to take on a challenge like this, because it indeed is a challenge between the course, between the conditions. She appears to be, I thought she was holding something at some point there. Good thing it's not cramp, because that would not be good to have to walk to that line. Another half marathoner here, George.
Yeah, 11:32. Competitor 11:32 is coming through, and the competitor 11:32 is Shannon Curtin from Barbados, 35 years old. She's completed the half marathon. Not many people can say that they've completed a half marathon, and she's come through to cheers. Number 45. Back to the marathon. This chap, we're gonna sort out his name for you. We told you that there were 45 registered participants in the marathon. Not seeing his name on the start list for number 45. Meanwhile, 10:54 is coming, another half marathoner. 10:45 is Marita Hudson from Great Britain, 38 years old. Marita.
Well, she's traveled
imaginary tape now.
She's traveled 8 hours, George. I believe that flight from London over here to Barbados, and she's had the time of her life posing with that finisher's medal, and she deserves that medal indeed. A performance, you can say, of a lifetime, a performance to savor, and a view to savor as well here on the east coast of beautiful Barbados.
Yes, indeed. So there he is, number 45. We're gonna identify him for you shortly. Fret not. He has a wave to the camera, speaking with our camera guys. I hope he's not asking for a lift, but he's done the hard work. Very, very tough conditions. Joel, you know what? I'm just going to send you outside for 30 seconds. I want you to go outside, and I want you to tell me what it feels like outside. So Joel is going to take leave of his commentary position just for the moment. He's going to step outside. I want him to tell me what it feels like outside. Our cameraman, Selwyn, has his lens trained on the next gentleman in line. Joel is back already, and I'm sure he's going to report that it's rather toasty outside.
Well, George, what I can say is that I might be deceived by the breeze coming off of the ocean there, that Atlantic Ocean side of Barbados. So it is warm right outside of our production position here, but I believe that the athletes, they have it a bit hotter than I would have experienced it right there on the outside. Like I said, I've been deceived because, you know, we're not too far from those waters, and these nice fresh salt here hit me as well. I probably should go outside a little more often.
Again, if you look at the stride pattern right here, excellent shot by our cameraman. If you look at this stride pattern, this is a man who's out on his legs. This is just guts again carrying home, and we underestimate, or we don't talk up how important it is to be gutsy, to set a target and to want to achieve that target, to hit that target, and pure guts right there. The arm carriage, it's swaying from side to side. Professional coaches will tell you that that's not the way to do it, but she will tell you that, look, I'm comfortable this way, and if I'm comfortable with this way, then that's the way I'm going to be running. You usually want your arms to be going back and forth, not across as she's carrying her, but she'll tell you that I am in a very good rhythm this way. I am comfortable, and at this rate I'll be able to finish the course, and finish the course is what she aims to do. Based on where she is she drawing close to the finishing line?
Definitely appears that way indeed. She's at a water station, so probably just a ways away then, but this looks to be her final stretch towards
there's
us here.
Her production truck. So she's going in the opposite direction. I think she has a loop to complete. So she's going, there she is. Yeah, there she is. So she does have a loop to complete. So she has some way to go yet. And I hope that the rate at which she's going, she'll be able to carry that all the way to the finish.
Oh, once again, to number 45. Those feet just flopping one in front of the other. But it's understandable at this stage of the race. What I can say though is that he doesn't appear to be sweating that much, and that is an interesting one there, given the heat factor outside. But given that he's taken 2 cups of water, I can tell you that he is certainly feeling it. What I can also tell you though is that there's probably a sizzle that came off of his body as he placed it on. He also puts it onto his head, so it really tells you about the conditions outside here, as we have this marathon and half marathon going on, the Farley Hill Marathon and half marathon for the Run at Barbados 2022. I guess that gave him a bit of energy because he's picked back up that pace as he comes towards us now. Makes his way across towards where we are positioned, Barclays Park, just on the east coast of Barbados. New route. If you just joined us, we're at a new route this year. Traditionally, we would have started at the Grantley Adams International Airport and made our way down towards the area of Bridgetown and finished at the Bay Street Esplanade. But this year, we've made a switch as Run Barbados is back. And who is back with us is another runner that looks to my mind to be bib number 16. So Pavel Kwame of Trinidad and Tobago. 44 years old. He's coming now on that home stretch. To the back of him, that is Chalky Mount. Behind him, that sleeping giant that we've talked about so much today, that offers you brilliant views and brilliant pictures of Barbados. And many a person has been known to climb that hill. And I call it a hill because we don't have any real mountains in Barbados, even though we do have one called Mount Hillaby. But in comparison to our Caribbean neighbors, it's not exactly a really high peak. But he makes his way now across the Scotland district area, Chalky Mount, at a very steady pace. And he'll be happy to see that finishing line probably in maybe about another 15-20 minutes or so, depending on the pace that he keeps up. What is also nice to note, though, is the encouragement that our athletes have gotten along the way, and that's what makes this route so special. The fact that they're able to loop and see competitors also loop and see persons who are just lining the roads, whether or not they have come from their houses here in the countryside of Barbados, whether or not they're at the bus stops going to church or making their way somewhere else. As I mentioned just now, another athlete crossing his path and going the opposite direction to make that final loop to circle back. But with us in frame, in shot, is Kwame Pavel, or rather Pavel Kwame. And he's looking to make his way all the way to us, the way we call home. All roads lead to home here in the Run Barbados series. Just taking a bit of a breather, and it's certainly understandable given those conditions that we've talked so much about today. He's now onto that unpaved section of the route. Another view of that finishing line. I'm not able to see that number, but it could be one of our half marathoners. I make it out there who just crossed that line. Actually, no, it's actually Alex Cawthorne, and he is from Great Britain. So another marathon runner there crossing the line. I'm not sure what time though, but congrats to Alex, being to my mind the second male to cross the line now in the marathon. So we're back now out in the parish of St. Andrew. Two parishes being used here today for the Run Barbados Marathon, the parishes of St. Andrew and St. Joseph. Two beautiful parishes offering unparalleled views, I would say, of this lush and lovely island of Barbados. We just had our second crosser of the line in the marathon, George, from Great Britain, Alex Cawthorne.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I had to make a pit stop. As we see competitor number 28 coming through in the marathon. That's Mateusz Janisewski, a man who we picked up earlier, the Irishman, just completing the course and being presented with his medal, having his picture taken, breathing strong, just about.
he rolls on to that support, and that support is needed and understandable at the end of a marathon. What's also lovely to see is all of them receiving that finisher's medal, regardless of what place they come. They're grabbing a finisher's medal, and to have that medal around your neck and to know and say that I have completed the marathon must be an amazing feeling for all of these athletes here today.
Yeah, interesting technique. The gait of this athlete, the swivel at the hips. As we see number 32 coming through, that is Ricardo Casillas from Canada, 45 years old, and he grabs his own medal and drapes it around his neck and leans on the barrier for support. He also, if you look at this, the stride pattern here as he reaches for his water, hard to pick up his bib number given where he is on the road. He's going to come across now, so it's going to be easier for camera guys to pick it up, but it's very low energy, meaning the stride pattern is meant to expend the least amount of energy as possible. So the hips are swiveling, the legs straight, but there's also movement at the shoulder. So it's not really the most efficient way of using your energy in a marathon, but again, it's what makes you comfortable, and he'll tell you that I'm comfortable this way at this pace, I will be able to finish, and this is the pace at which I'm going to take it all the way to the end.
It's definitely what works at this stage, and it's definitely what works in this heat, because we also saw that he was going up one of those gradual inclines, which has certainly taken its toll on our athletes here today. So once again, kudos to all of them. Another slight incline here we're seeing on camera, making a very steady way up. To my mind, he's now in that area of Chalky Mount.
Yeah.
Not too far off from us, so we should be seeing him fairly soon. When I say fairly soon, I probably mean about maybe about 15 20 minutes, but in marathon terms that is quite soon, given what we see here today.
Yeah, given the length of time that you spend on the marathon course, it is perfectly understandable. As we see Lady Felix getting her medal, a brilliant winner of the women's contest.
This, to my mind now, is the perfect time to take those photos, George. The sun just caressing the skin and faces of all and sundry who are here gathered at Barclays Park. It's certainly a picture-perfect moment here for Run Barbados.
Right, I was making the point to the viewers that as we see, the runners spend so long on the course that it is understandable that they walk with their mobile phones and their earpieces. People are listening to music, people are listening to motivational speeches, people are just into a zone, because that helps you to get into a rhythm and to maintain that rhythm. Look, there are many people who could go fast but for shorter distances, so they say, okay, it doesn't make sense to go fast for a part of the race. Let me go at a moderate pace for all of the race to ensure that I finish the race. And that's the tactic that many of them have employed. That's a strategy going into the race, and that's a tactic actually employed by several of these runners to ensure that they complete the course, because there's merit in completing the course.
Well, what I can tell you, George, when it comes to the marathon, the age-old saying is, it is not for the swift, but who can endure. So for our athletes here today, it's really about that endurance factor. The swiftness, well, that is left for the likes of yourself and your 100-meter dashers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. 100-meter dashers. I like that. All right, so another overhead shot here of this community, you told me?
So we're currently looking, I believe it to be a Belle Plaine. My mind usually serves me better when I'm on the ground, George. Okay. So in the air, I'm not too familiar with the rooftops. But what I can say is that we're definitely in the parish of St. Andrew here with this beautiful shot as Barbadians go about their merry way. A couple birds there as well. Brilliant drone shots and brilliant views of what is going to be the climax of the Run Barbados weekend.
All right, our broadcast climax is in about 4 minutes. We've gone 3 minutes 20 on the clock, so around about 3:25 we should be out of here, and we are just holding on. So we're in the dying embers of this broadcast. We've been at it since 5:33 thereabouts Barbados time. That's when the gun was fired on the start of the marathon and the half marathon. Just to recap for you that the 3K was won by a Barbadian, John Raven, 19 years old. He won the men's section. The women's section was won by a Barbadian, young Layla McIntyre, at 11 years old. Second in the 3K went to Finn Armstrong, a Barbadian, second among the men. The 7K was won by Carly Robinson, a Barbadian, and the men's winner, Shamel Maynard, a Barbadian. So Barbados sweeping the 7K, sweeping the 3K. In the half marathon, you wouldn't be surprised to know that the winner in the half marathon was a Barbadian, Joshua Hunt. He bested the field. And the woman who won the female race in the half marathon was Cecilia Mobocon, 35-year-old medical doctor. She won. And then in the marathon, it was a dominating performance by Alex Alex Ekeza. I almost said Alex Schertz. Alex Ekeza, the Kenyan, who buccaneered his way to victory in 2 hours and 40 minutes from our watch. The woman who won her section of the marathon, Felix Herminiarinsoa, in 2 hours and 54 minutes by our watch, a 14-minute difference. And it was also a buccaneering performance by her. One competitor in the half marathon taken to hospital, as the only report we have, which is very good. We downplay the significance of this, but for an arduous activity like this under these circumstances, it is clear that if you finish these events without having a bunch of people needing medical attention, then it's a successful event for that fact, and only one person requiring medical attention as far as we know.
Well, on screen currently Enzo Torti.
All right, so Enzo Torti, it's a good way to end, as we have to wrap now. We're at the end, Joel, and Enzo Torti at 70 years old, the Italian, one of the two Italians who started in the marathon, and Enzo is making his way to the finish line, giving me the cue now to leave the broadcast position and head outside for the wrap on the SportsMax Run Barbados Marathon 2022.
Well, as George heads outside, it's really been amazing views and amazing running on display here today in the Run Barbados Series 2022. It started yesterday, and we had quite a few events on hand. And today, we had the half marathon, the marathon, we had the 7K, we also had the 3K race as well, and then we had the walk race. So it's been amazing. As you can see, Maria out there having a time dancing to the music, because it's also a festivity going down here, as George referred to it earlier, a running carnival, and that's what it is right here in the beautiful Barbados. So it's been absolutely amazing here, and as you see that shot, they're telling you that we're actually on the Ermy-Bourne Highway, that highway famously known for the first woman to occupy the House of Assembly here in Barbados, and of course those picturesque views of the very foamy east coast of Barbados, home to surfing, home to fishing, and home to wonderful times. Of course, Enzo Torti still going in a great stride all the way from Italy, and he is 70 years old, so commendable. At 70 years old, I don't believe I'll be doing that, I can promise you that one, but he is certainly going strong, and he's coming all the way home. Checking that clock, we're 3 hours expired so far in this Run Barbados marathon. But it doesn't matter how much time he takes, as long as he crosses that line, I guarantee you that he will have a smile on his face. All of our runners here today guaranteed to have themselves a finisher's medal, and such a nice touch, especially after all that effort that's being put in by them. Starting this morning at just about 5:30 a.m. By my clock, it is now 8:57 a.m. here in Barbados. And while the sun is now high in the sky and beating down on our athletes, some obviously feeling it just a bit more than others, but I promise you they're going to feel just a smile on their face as long as they cross that line. Still waving at a few athletes who are making their way down towards that final loop here in this marathon race. Of course, many of our half marathoners have already completed the race, and kudos to all of them for making it here on this East Coast Road course. And our marathon runners, well, they're still here, but we head outside now. It's George and Maria. They're outside at that start finish line here at Barclays Park.
Yeah, so we are at the end of the Run Barbados Marathon 2022. 2 days of top-class racing, 2 days of riveting competition, but Mariah, more than that, 2 days of fun and 2 days for Barbadians and visitors to explore an unspoilt, almost virgin part, beautiful, of the island.
2 days of memories that will last for a lifetime, and of course the winners will cherish these medals, cherish these memories, and of course they have reaped the rewards of all the hard work that they've put into competition. And you know, as the curtains come down, George, I have to say I feel a bit sad. I'll miss Barbados.
Well, don't miss it too much. You'll be back next year. The fact of the matter is that the toast of the 2 days for me, Layla McIntyre, the 11-year-old who won the women's 3K today, absolutely outstanding. But when you talk about outstanding performances, you have to look at the man and woman who won the marathon. Alex Ekeza from Kenya, 2 hours and 40 minutes by our clock, and then Felix Hermirin-Sao from France, who won the women's section. And just to say, put it in context, Felix's performance gave her a second overall. She was the second finisher past the post in the marathon, so she beat every other man except Alex Ekeza. I think those three, McIntyre, Felix, and Alex Ekeza, the three outstanding performers of Run Barbados Marathon weekend.
Yeah, definitely outstanding. I want to say congratulations again to Felix, because you know, when she crossed that finish line, George, you could see the sense of relief on her face as she hobbled to the water section to pick up some water. So you know, congratulations on her, not only beating the entire field other than Alex, but top stuff from her. And then Alex, of course, winning the 10K yesterday, coming today, bouncing back and walking away as marathon winner.
All right, so what we've had here at Run Barbados Marathon 2022, of course, sponsored by SportsMax, we've had a range of competitors. The youngest at 6 years old, the oldest at 86 years old. We've had runners, we've had run enthusiasts, we've had the curious, we've had people who just love Barbados and wouldn't miss the opportunity to come out for an event like this. The hospitality has been top-notch, the entertainment has been top-notch, the competition has also been very good, and I suspect, Mariah, that the quality of this year's offering will convince even more professional runners to come on down and pick an event or few to compete in next year.
Yeah, and personally, I want to say it was a pleasure as well for me to be a part of this, George, because as you know, what we do here on SportsMax is to ensure that the entire Caribbean doesn't miss out if they can't make it. And I get the sense that, you know, more eyes will be tuned into this product, and next year maybe I won't be able to walk on the sidelines.
Absolutely so. SportsMax are covering its maiden marathon, and what a marathon to align with to start the ball rolling. I want to say thanks to the folks at Barbados Tourism Marketing in Corey Garrett and his team, BTMI, for putting on a really good show, and our hardworking team who've done some tremendous things behind the scenes.
Miracles.
Bordering on magic to get us on air and to get us up and working. Have to say thanks to them for the effort that they have put in. Mariah, as the lady in the team, I give it to you. I allow you to take us home.
Yeah, well, as I say, congratulations to all the winners. Thank you to everyone who made today's event possible, and especially you, our viewers, who continue to tune in day after day. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Goodbye for now.
For strength, stamina, and performance, Black Stallion, the bedroom tonic. Bring out the stallion in you.